Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterland universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Praetoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on PeakD, YouTube, and Twitter.
Send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode, another great guests, possibly two. We've got the guys from Down Under and over in Mexico at this point, Matt Clark and possibly Boba Fett. Down Under. It's all relative, right? Yeah, good call. Okay. So welcome to the show, Matt. Wonderful to see you. It's been a few months. We've had some big changes since we last had you on. Welcome back.
G'day, Cobber. Yeah, lots of stuff going on. There's constant changes. It's great to be back and see you guys again. It's been certainly an interesting and a challenging time. I'm fielding a lot of DMs from people saying, "What's going on? Is the sky falling? Is everything falling apart?" I think with the price, I've always said this about Splinterlands: the price can go up and down, but the coding doesn't get undone, right? Like the work, the progress, that doesn't get undone, and the relationships can come and go, but once the trust is there, as we've seen with the latest proposal to make Dave McCoy the director of the DAO. I like Dave. I've worked with Dave in the past. I sent him some DEC for a group buy for land, and he sent me the 30 plots, which happened to have a castle in them, which was great. But there's that trust there, right? There's the trust has grown, the code has been written, the price is unfortunate, the SPS price under a cent. I don't know who's selling at under a cent. I don't know what sort of time horizon you need to have as an individual to decide that selling SPS under 1 cent is somehow a good thing to do. But yeah, the non-price stuff I think is great, and I think the game has never been in better shape. The game play is fascinating to me. I've been really thinking a lot about the way that the Glint store is expanding gameplay. So part of your gameplay now is deciding how you're going to spend your Glint. Do I want to go with? I've been focusing on epic draws, for example, because I want to bolster some of those. Your Clockwork Aid, Evelyn Avierda, those guys, because of weapons training, right? So I'm trying to get my head around weapons training and how am I going to best incorporate that. And so I've been focusing on my epics and getting my epics up. And instead of just you play the game and then you get whatever awards just fall out of the sky, gamifying the rewards, I think, is kind of meta in a way, where you now part of the game is I'm going to spend some time focusing on battling. Now I'm going to spend some time focusing on my strategy. Do I want to get the chests and maybe I'll get glint, maybe I'll get energy, or do I? There's one legendary card that I'm looking to max and all the others are maxed. Well, do I buy legendary draws and just hope that I'm that's a lot of glint to spend just hoping that you're going to get that one, right? Whereas if you buy chests, you might be getting epics that you need as well, and there's a chance of getting that legendary that you need, but obviously less. But you're not getting multiple copies of legendaries that you've already maxed out and the like. So I think the reward store gamifying that has really helped in a lot of ways. I think there's been a bit of a backslide in brawling interest because now merits are more readily available in chests, and also in you can buy them for glint. So people that haven't really engaged with the brawl side of things now have an option to get merits, which I guess makes sense since gladiators are now available in ranked, depending on the summoner. But I feel like running a guild. I've had a couple of guys tap me on the shoulder and say, "Look, I've been brawling now for 2 years, 3 years. I just want to take a break for the next month or so. And often they'll say, look, I can get my merits elsewhere. I want to step away and just be a bit more casual for a bit. So it's been harder to fill frays, I think, would be the only downside that I've picked from the Glint reward store change. But I really like it because it is an extra way of playing the game now. It's a different way of playing the game. Like right now, we're playing the game, right? If you zoom out enough, coming on a podcast, having a chat, talking to people, engaging with people that comment, all of this is playing the game.
Yeah. Now, I hear you saying about the Glint shop, and I had that same sort of situation where I think the only legendary card I hadn't had up to at least gold level was Usut, and I was like 1 BCX away. And I was like, do I want to spend it? Because I did it a couple times. I'm like, I'm just getting a bunch of cards I don't need. But then when Lurkus came out, I was like, all right, I have to get it to level 3. I have to get that heal because I want to get the life leech and that heal with the bloodlust on him. And so then it was just like, yeah, I just put a lot of glint into, and I finally pulled it the other day. So and then I was like, all right, that was definitely worth it. All those extra copies of cards I don't need, but just to get that one, with Lurkus it's such a powerful card right now. So yeah, it was but yeah, I definitely had to like weigh it. So like, oh, should I wait? We don't know like when these things are going to be unlocked and how much they're going to be. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go for it. But yeah. So have you been playing, Matt? Have you been playing a lot of modern ranked? Or are you playing? I know you have all your wild cards on your land, or kind of what's your gameplay on battles like these days?
Yeah, so I've got a lot of flesh columns on land. Obviously, I only need one copy to play with, so all the rest have gone over there. A lot of the rentals that I stockpiled a lot of Pellicorp Gondras for a while there, so they've gone onto the land. So basically it's a lot of multiple copies rather than sort of hacking into my playing deck too heavily. I've only really cultivated the legendary and epic plots. I think I've tapped into a couple of rares, but for the most part, a lot of my land is just fallow. I don't know how we'll go with when salt comes into that as a mechanic, because I think the salt mechanic sort of assumes that the entire region is being used. And so being a region holder look, that's a whole different, there's a lot of speculation there, including land rentals, right? Land surfing, land rentals. If I can open it up and say, hey, tenants come and work my land, then I can take some of what they kick back to me and use that to desalinate. So land is a funny one, the direction. I passed 1 million research points only about a week ago, so I was pretty happy with that across my plots. Yeah, it's really interesting, the dynamics and the economics of it. So I bought another flesh golem the other day, so a maxed alpha flesh golem, not cheap. He never hit the market. It's often private deals, because people just reach out to me and say, hey, I got a flesh golem, you keen? And so I bought him, and I was thinking, what's really interesting is I put him on a grain plot, and freed up my gelatinous cube, who I've been working with my backup cube in battles, the level 8, and I keep really missing those last 2 levels. So I've freed up my cube, which is great, and replaced him with this alpha gold flesh golem, and it ended up really boosting the stats for that plot quite a lot. Even though it's max card for max card, obviously a gold alpha is gonna be a whole lot more production points. And it's funny that it sort of ties into Austrian economics there, and the marginal utility arguments or observations, where that fleshy, okay, yeah, he's valuable to me because I'm hoarding them, and it's my thing, and it's one I don't have to buy down the track, and it's one other people don't have. But it's also more valuable to me because I have a legendary grain plot with a legendary totem on it. So I can take that card that somebody else who's only got, say, 1 rare grain plot and no totems yet, or maybe a common totem. To me, that card is far more valuable than it is to him. And I remember when a couple of years ago, somebody was selling the Untamed title, and he wanted $100 for it, and nobody was really taking him up on it. And I thought, it's a no-brainer to me. I have 2 regions, So that Untamed title is going to be worth more to me than it is to somebody with no land. So we're getting to this point where assets are worth different amounts to different people, depending on what else they have. And I've just been finding that fascinating, just kind of reflecting on that. So I probably went a bit too far overboard, just to circle back and answer your question there, Hep. I went probably too far overboard in sending some of my alpha cards over to land, and I've subsequently missed them in gameplay. I've gone to reach for them over and over again, and they're just not there. Partially, I've sort of seen that as a fun gameplay challenge, like how can I fill that gap? But I'm starting to find opportunities to free some of them up and bring them back and start playing with them again. So yeah, I've mostly been multiples. I did build up my 5-second rule was my rental account. Still have quite a few on there, but I spent a lot of time building that up with multiple copies. I had a heap of exploding dwarfs in gold foil and regular foil, a heap of cubes. I had a heap of like lots of different cards that I've now subsequently sent across to land. So that they're doing the bulk of the heavy lifting, and then I don't have to worry so much about sending 50 individual cards, all of whom I'm going to individually miss when it comes to battling. So yeah, a lot of multiples on my land plots, and yeah.
I think last time we had you on, Matt, you were talking about, you know, kind of cherry picking key cards out of Rebellion. I think there was the Life Sniper to work in tandem with your beloved Captain Katie. That was one of the first.
Archer.
That's the one. Yeah. Have you kind of continued that practice of just kind of picking out ones that are going to supplement your style and you know, kind of your current favorite cards, or are you? Yeah, how are you approaching Rebellion at this point?
Yeah, so I've been paying attention to which cards have sort of performed well. What I like to do is look at the battle, look at the lineup, and often, you know, between Rebellion and Rift Watchers, there's often a few cards that I'll come up against. I'll think I barely even recognize this guy because I haven't engaged a great deal with either Rebellion or Rift Watchers. And so what I'll do is I'll have a look and I'll picture in my head the way the battle plays out. But then if it's substantially different to how I pitch it when I watch it, then I'll look at, okay, who turned the tide of the battle? Who was responsible here? Which Rebellion card was kind of the one that was the keystone to the opposing strategy that beat me? So I've just kind of been mentally cataloging those cards and sort of thinking which ones am I going to move on. But just to, I guess, emphasize or to answer your question, emphasize my previous point, there's the Dwarven Wizard. I've got a max gold epic Dwarven Wizard, which is I think quite valuable, or was last time I checked the card price, and I put him on land, and he was tying in beautifully with the Captain Katie Thanalorian Archer, especially in knockout, right? Because he does stun, so he's a magic sniper with stun, but only at max level. And I've been limping in with my backup copy in battles because I sent my max copy land. So he's one that I'm looking to spring. So, you know, spring him from land and bring him back out into battling. So that's been largely my focus. Is what I've been doing is sort of when I get the cash together, it's been more about buying a replacement card that won't hurt me too badly on land, sending that to the plot, and then freeing up my playing card that I keep reaching for and it's not there anymore. So when I've sort of unlocked those cards, so to speak, pulled them off land, then I'll start looking at some of these Rebellion cards that I've been eyeing off and thinking, yeah, I need that more. Really, my focus has been on freeing up those cards I'm missing and miss, and also which way do I want to go with the rewards, with the Soulbound rewards. Which do I want to just legendaries? Do I want to go for epics? Usuit is a big one for me. I'm not great with death, as we've discussed before. That's kind of my weakest splinter, but that's also where I need to improve the most. And Iziar, I just can't get an Iziar. I've like two BCX, I think, of Iziar. And how long's he been out for? Like, it's ridiculous.
It blows my mind people who are like that. You know, I feel like I got Iziar, like a lot of them, like very early. It was like one of the ones that I just kept hitting. So yeah, when I hear that people still don't have it, it's just, yeah, it's kind of mind boggling.
Well, RNG, it comes back to it rears its head in all sorts of places.
Should we talk about the Soulbounds then? And is this a good segue? Like, how do you feel about just the Soulbound in principle in general, then, Matt, if you're one of the people who, if you're getting stuck with RNG and not getting a couple of the legendary cards you want, yeah, like kind of what are your feelings on that? Whether they should be, do you like this current system? Do you think they should be able to be, unlocked earlier so that, the people who really want them or feel they really need them, do have the opportunity to buy them sooner than when the sets, fully run its course?
Yeah, I'm always conscious of the fact that I don't have all the data in front of me, and Matt does. And he also has a clearer vision of where he wants to take the game. So I'm very much at peace with kind of trusting Matt with those decisions. My personal vision for it has been, on the one hand, I kind of feel like when I'm the some nights you're the black cat, some nights you're the black Tesla, right? So I feel like when I get that lucky hit, there was one I got gold. I got like almost max in gold. One of the Soulbound legendaries, Drybone Raider, I think. She attacks twice.
Mm-hmm.
I never pay attention to the names. Attacks twice, ranged and melee, and Shatter, which is
Shatter,
just
cripple,
insane. Yeah. It's a great card, and I got really lucky, right? Like within the first week, I'd almost maxed her in gold foil early. So it's kind of like your experience with this year. And I do like that level of randomness in that you don't necessarily know who you're going to come up against and what cards they have. And I know that confounds botters somewhat, where they how do we code to bot for 1,000 accounts when they all have different actual cards available to them, so there's definitely an upside to that. And I think the moving away from Soulbound briefly, I think the joy that I have now in battles at the moment is because you can't see your opponent coming up. I really enjoy playing alpha cards, and cards that people, often the account I'm coming up against has never seen that card before, never played against that card, because they're not expecting it at all, right? So it's really quite fun to break out those older cards because they're not expecting that strategy. They weren't expecting that hang on, there's a Rexy. Whoa, hang on. Whoa, he's just, sort of out of the blue. It's not expected. And so
I
I've
definitely
been
have to
enjoying
look
that.
up the Dwarven Wizard. I completely forgot that card. I definitely have not seen that card in a long time, so I had to look that up real quick to remind myself, like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah. And he's, like I say, he ties in beautifully with that strategy, and he's my next card I'm going to spring from land. But I think, so the Soulbound is kind of like that, where if you don't know what everybody else has, then and what they can buy, but players just can't buy the cards that they need. There's a randomness to that, I think, that really adds to the game, where you can, there were guys who got wiped out by my Drybone Raider a week into the Soulbound rewards who looked at that and went, how the hell does this guy have an almost maxed legendary Soulbound reward card this early, right? And it's just, hey, I got lucky, right? Now we're a long way down the track, and I'm looking at my 2 BCX regular for Elysiar and sort of screaming and shaking the screen. But that's the flip side of it, right? That's the other side of it. So as to how to handle unlocking, I think I'd like to see generally, I kind of feel like we who are heavily enmeshed in the game embrace complexity too readily, where we'll say, oh, there's this thing, all right, let's just make it so that this or this or this or this. And it can be overwhelming for new people, and it's hard to recognize that, hang on, I'm already 3/4 of the way up the mountain. I can see the top. But when I kind of push it even further than that, as far as complexity goes, that just makes it dizzying to sit at the base of the mountain and look up and, freak out. So I think we need to embrace simplicity a lot more, with things like when one time I really noticed was Chaos Legion. There's people arriving with money, new players arriving. They want to play, they want to get engaged, they want to get involved. They want to buy Chaos Legion packs, but you need money and vouchers. Where do I get vouchers from? I'm new. How do I get vouchers? Oh, you need to go to Tribal Decks. You need to go to Hive Engine and do that and buy the vouchers from somebody who's got them from staking SPS. It becomes a complex web, right? makes perfect sense to us. We all get it because we're heavily enmeshed. But I think we need to constantly think, how does the new guy arriving feel about all this? Because he should just be able to fire up his PayPal. Here's my credit, buy my credits, spend them on the packs, on the things that I want. Not be too worried that other guys are getting it cheaper. Say, for example, with the season passes coming up to play in Wild, right? You need to pay DEC or vouchers. Okay, yeah, it's good to have that flexibility there, but are people going to arrive and say, well, this isn't fair, I'm actually paying money, and these guys who've been here a while are just paying with vouchers? That's not fair, right? So I'm not saying that we're doing it wrong. I'm just saying overall, if we assume that simplicity is a benefit in and of itself, because it's removing barriers between the guy who's never played the game and him seeing a future where he's successful in the game, I think that needs to be something more of a focus, because at the moment it's just kind of dizzying and overwhelming for people, and I think that's keeping people away.
That's a great call out. I think, you know, we've when I first came in, I think it was one of the first times that I had heard the idea around like a frictionless entrance ramp. And I feel like that first 6 months was anything but frictionless, like trying to figure out what's Hive Engine. Oh, I have a Peak D account. Great. What is Leo Finance? Oh, I have. Okay. So, it's, you know, there's all these, you know, I think the best way to describe it is that web. You know, you're pushing something here and all of a sudden you're getting ripples across the you know, the whole rest of everything where you can interact across a whole slew of interfaces. And yeah, it's I'll be interested to see how does Nate and co, how do they tackle the, you know, all the back end stuff, the asset management stuff, Hive Engine and tribal decks. It's a funny one. As far as the Soulbound stuff, I wonder if, you know, we've heard the guys talk about, oh, that we're wasting resources, you know, precious salary on lore. What a waste of money. I completely disagree. I love the lore. I feel like it adds a cool element to the game. And I think, you know, as we progress into future conflicts, I think there's a lot of opportunity to really lean into the lore. And of course, when we get into like PvE and that sort of stuff, the lore can play a more dominant piece. But I wonder if there's something to be said for, you know, as part of that player experience, if I could choose like a faction or choose an element. So for example, my next handful of batches of Soulbound cards, I can choose life, for example. And I go down that path of Soulbound cards. So that maybe includes some dragon, maybe includes some neutral cards, or it pulls off of the lore and life is currently cooperating with Earth, for example, and you know, maybe I have a smaller percentage chance to pull Earth cards, but you're kind of choosing that destination of ultimately where you're opening up, you know, these rewards. And you know, the way, shout out to the team for, I think the Glint Shop has been alive and well for maybe 12 weeks, and we've seen probably just as many iterations on the Glint Shop. So they're keeping it fresh, they're keeping things moving. And you know, I think that was the whole premise behind the Glint Shop is allowing for the team to have that kind of ultimate range of flexibility in terms of what's made available. Yeah, so I would love to see that sort of, you know, you choose your own destination sort of thing, and then I don't think we would feel as pained by the gods of RNG when you're not pulling those Iziars, right? Like you made that choice. Yeah, so I think that would be a cool twist on stuff, and it would, you know, give the chance for Joey and the rest of the guys on the narrative team, lore side, to really kind of flex their creative muscle in terms of how do we, you know, further weave this into the player experience.
Yeah, totally agree. Sort of picking your affiliation, because everybody has an affiliate. They'll come in and they'll say, "Okay, I want my splinter. I want to be fire." Right? I always choose fire. I always choose the heat and the lava and the magma in various games. And we've got this story that we tell ourselves about ourselves. So yeah, totally agree. If you can choose an affiliation, I mean, I would go with Earth. You know, that's always been my nature.
Shocker.
Yeah. Yeah, nature, growth, life, all of that stuff. I kind of feel like nature always wins, right? You see an abandoned mining town, and it's just, you know, or I'm thinking of the in Japan. I think islands off Japan it was heavily populated. It was a mine or a fishing village or something. Now it's just abandoned, and you just see nature just wins in the end. Like nature always just wins in the end. So that would be my affiliation. Hep, I don't think I actually answered your question too. I sort of went off talking about simplicity. That was looking to lead back to my thoughts on the Soulbound rewards would be at the end of the period when it's done now, have maybe a 6-month period where you can actually swap 2 for 1 or even 3 for 1 if the game wanted to be a little bit more stingy. Any rarity with any of the same rarity. So if you got a whole lot of extra copies of one specific card, you could say, well, look, I need this other. I got more copies than I need of this one legendary. So the game will let me trade 2 copies of the one I don't need directly for 1 copy of the one that I do need, for example. And the ratio could be 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1 if you wanted to get crazy. But I like the idea that, yes, if RNG just stings you, you put in the hours, you put in the time, you did the righty, you got the wins, but you just got burnt by RNG. I'd like to see that each reward set is sort of pegged so that if you're playing around that Gold League area, you should get enough BCX of various different reward cards so that you should probably be able to swap what you have and don't what you have and don't need for what you need and don't have at some sort of a ratio. Even if it was less than 2 to 1, swap 3 and get 2, right? You be more generous if need be, but for me the simplicity of that is better. If we don't include other people, we don't include burning to DEC or anything like that, or any of the other different possibilities. Take DEC, buy it off the market, then you need to convert SPS and get the DEC, then you embed that. Now it's unlocked to sell, but it's not unlocked to be used on land. All of this, there's so much complexity, and I really feel like that would be a good way to handle it. End of it's coming up. Okay, we're going to run out of these reward cards. I have plenty. I've been playing plenty, but now I need to do a little bit of swapping with my spare cards to fill the gaps that I still have in my in my account. And then that could also be backwards compatible with previous editions. So if I never got my IZR up, if I was 1 BCX away and I didn't have enough legendaries to swap in to get him, well, that's okay, because when the next set expires, or however you want to work it, then I can swap my legendaries from the next set back into IZR and top him up that way. So it's more about how many legendaries of that BCX have you got? As long as you've got enough, they don't need to be the right exact card. The game's going to give you the ability to burn 3, get 2, or however that works. That to me would be a more simple way to handle it. But I say, Yabba's got his vision. I trust his judgment.
I mean, think about simplicity and everything. I mean, I feel like that, isn't the simplest answer just, make unlockable and let the market take care of people who need to swap cards for what other cards, right? If you feel like you need to burn some or, do something, maybe you do have some sort of burn mechanic that gives you the ability to get something, right? But I mean, it just seems like the simplest solution is to go back to them just being available, like not being soulbound, right? And then just letting the simplest point from the game, and then letting the market kind of handle itself. So, I don't know. I feel like it's. I like the idea. I think your idea sound is a good one, but just from a simplicity stake, it still feels like there's still maybe a few too many layers there.
Yeah, we touched on this before the show, chatting briefly, and I think in terms of broad general direction, my thinking recently has been moving away from the soulbound end and moving away from the idea that we're going to reward people with assets that they can't sell, but they're going to be useful in the game, and to focus more on only not the trying to stop people from dumping their assets, but to only reward assets to people who are long-term committed to the game. And this is where a longer-term SPS staking period, I think, would be a better option. So by all means, have SPS regularly, whether you sliding scale of different staking periods. But I would like to see earnings, battle earnings be staked for a year, right? If you get SPS in a battle, that's now staked for a year. You can power it down, but you're not getting the benefit of that staked SPS while you're powering it down. So somebody who wants to say, I'm just going to dump, I'm just going to leave the game, that's all well and good, but understand that you hit the button now and then you come back in a year and you can collect your SPS. It's not going to be liquid and available to you until then. And then you can heavily lean on rewards. The rewards are based on how much SPS this person has staked at that 12-month level, right? Then you can be less generous with the Soulbound rewards that you kick out, but also let them be, sorry, not Soulbound rewards. You can be less generous with the rewards that you kick out, but make them easily tradable, right? So it's about those people with the long-term commitment to the SPS. They're the ones getting the rewards, and then they can do whatever they like with them. They're actually rewards. They're actually something that you can move and sell. Hey, Bob, thanks for joining us, mate.
What's up, Bob?
Yeah, just been push biking it from the center of town. It's 36 degrees, and yeah.
Well, you made it, man. Appreciate you
Yeah,
stopping on, Bob.
You didn't have to rush right on. You could have caught your breath first and got a glass of water or something.
I hate being late. It's not me, and I was pushing that little push bike as hard as it'll go. They have in Australia, I'm guessing other places, we have the e-scooter thing. They have something similar here in Mexico, but it's pedal power. You get you buy an annual membership card, and there's bike stations everywhere. And you just stick your card in, you pull out a bike, off you go, and then you just park it in another station. And I reckon it's great, pedal power. I'm curious, if they offered that as an alternative to the e-scooters in, say, Australia and places, how many people would use them? People are probably using e-scooters because it's the only choice, but I reckon given the choice, a lot of people would like to use the pedal power. But
we have those. We've had those in DC for a long time. There's stations all over the city, and they've kind of upgraded too, where now there's some of the bikes will be electronic pedal assist bikes. Some of them are just regular, so people have an option. And a lot of people use them. It's great.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And for the last 5 weeks here, every single day, 5 weeks in a row, it's been somewhere between 35 and 38. And but it's so much better. I generally, when I'm out and about, I just have a tank top. So it's sleeveless shorts. I'll be walking or biking around 3.5 hours in the sun, no problem. In Australia, 30 minutes in the sun in that heat, you'll be burning, blistering, and peeling. So maybe there's a little bit of truth to this hole in the ozone layer right above Australia, which Australia has the highest rate of skin cancer in the world. And it's very much, even though there's education about the system now, culture is winning out. If the sun's out, Australians take their shirt off, get that, white is ugly, you got to be golden brown, that bronze sort of look. And even though there's very strict laws now in occupational health and safety, if you're working on a construction site or something, you've got to have long sleeves, gloves, big hat. And someone will be walking around every 2 hours, tapping you on the shoulder, put sunscreen on your face. But the moment they knock off comes the shirt, off comes the hat. So even with the education, the culture is winning out. But there's no way I could spend as much time in the sun as I do here in Australia. There's definitely a difference. Humidity makes a thing too. Here, the humidity is 10 to 20%. In Australia, in the summer, it's 80, 90, and it's very noticeable here. If you're standing in the sun, you take 2 steps to the left in the shade, instantly, it's you feel instantly. Whereas in Australia, you jump in the shade, it doesn't make any difference. Right. So there's definitely a difference with the sun.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
when the sweat on your body can actually evaporate, and cool you, and as you know, it's intended to do, it actually makes a huge difference as a when it's like you walk outside and you feel like you just stepped into a steam sauna. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the difference between night and day. You're in the desert, Bob, so that difference between, the desert cools a good 25, 30 degrees Fahrenheit from as soon as that sun disappears. And you're speaking to some of that with stepping into the shade. But I went out with shout out to our old buddy Waskel. We met up over the weekend and went for a couple of
Nice.
brewskis and built a bonfire at our usual beach spot. And it was the first time that I've ever been down there where there was no breeze. We've been catching kind of the tail end of a typhoon kind of scraping by the edge of Taiwan, and the humidity is, it's breaking barometer. Is that what measures humidity?
Yeah.
It was just like sitting in the steam zone. It was nighttime, so you would expect it to be a little bit cooler, but the air was completely still. We were sitting on the water, and the humidity was just like vacuum, just absolutely brutal.
I'm a little south of the desert here, by the way. So.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah. In fact, let me just. I want to show you something. Can I share my screen for a sec? I'm disabled.
You
at the
sure may.
moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is where I'm little south of the brown area here. Google, they must have done this today. So if I mouse over Mexico, see the little picture we've got here?
Yep.
Let me now show you a screenshot. With my tutoring, quite often people are interested in where I am and things like that.
Bob, how'd you get so brown? Is that the first question?
Let me show you. This was like this for at least 3 weeks. At least 3 weeks.
Oh, the pyramids.
Anyone notice what's wrong with that picture?
Enlighten us, Bob.
That is Egypt. That is Giza.
Ah,
is it? Oh.
That is not Mexico.
Are there palm trees in Egypt? Like that?
Yes, at the Gaza there is.
Okay.
And also, like if you look at the, you can see because the pyramid in Egypt is not actually 4-sided; it's 8-sided. There's a line runs right down the middle, and so what looks like a flat face is actually like that.
Interesting.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that is Giza, not Egypt, and it was like that for 3 weeks.
Huh. Somebody's trolling Google, huh? Was that you, Bob?
No, I didn't. I thought I was curious to see how long it would take. So it looks like it's been updated today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, glad you could hop on.
Yeah.
Always good to see you.
Yeah. I was a little confused. I thought that we were, because a couple of weeks ago when Gio picked up his job, he said he was going to message you and see if we could change it to a Saturday, and then I just slipped my mind. But yeah, I was in a meeting earlier today. My friend Kurt, I'm going to be doing English classes here 1 night a week at his business premises. And so I was just meeting some of the locals involved in his business cooperative type thing. And I don't live on my mobile. Like I very, very rarely check it when I'm out and about. And it's just as I was leaving, I was like, oh no, that's when I messaged you instantly on Discord, grabbed the push bike and pedaled back home. So my apologies. I hate being late for anything. So yeah, my apologies to everyone concerned.
But you should have, when you came in, you should have just said, hey Matt, let me get a word in here. You haven't let me talk the whole show, and so everyone just would have thought that Matt was talking the whole time and wasn't letting you talk.
Actually, I see you have a headset, Matt.
Yeah. I struggle with your the way we do things on our show, but we'll
all right. So 101's not good enough. It's just not enough priority for you. But the People's Guild say, "Hey, Matt, come on our show." You rush out, you buy a headset, Like, come on. Did you sell a flesh golem to get the headset or what?
No, I would never sell a flash golem. No. I work off my work laptop, which is great because they're great with security.
Ah, you got the kid's
and
iPad.
everything's locked down, and so the Zoom link that you sent through, I managed to get working on the work laptop, so I can use the headset. But normally with the 101, I'm on my mobile phone, so for some reason that doesn't dovetail with the headset. So all good. So we're talking about. Sorry,
you didn't have to borrow the iPad from one of your alts.
Yeah, my alts. He calls my kids. My alts.
That's what Matt calls his kids, his alts.
Yeah. Well, I got him accounts in the first million. So Henry Clark, Fletcher Clark, Evelyn Clark, and Amanda Clark accounts are all like my wife and kids. So I got one of the first. I was in the first 50,000 accounts on the chain. And so when it was getting close to the first million, I thought I'll dive in and get them all accounts registered. So just in case Hive blows up, and that's real good bragging points to be in the first million users. So yeah, and they've all at various times sort of had cards and been botted. Amanda played for a while on the mobile app. I think if that comes good, we could maybe coax her back again. But generally, every change that Matt's made has made it more valuable to centralize your cards. So I've just kind of gone through and stolen cards from my kids, basically. But I do have footage, like there's a couple of YouTube clips out there of like alpha cards, alpha packs with my kids opening them. And my Evelyn, who's 9 now, she was 3 when Splinterlands started, so she's very, very young. She doesn't remember a time when I wasn't playing Splinterlands every day, which is kind of trippy when you think like, here's this game that I'm just getting involved with, and it feels like it hasn't been that long. And then I look at my 9-year-old who's never known a life without Splinterlands. It's kind of puts it all into perspective,
Yeah.
Talk about ambition. If we can get the next generation to not know a life without Splinterlands, that'd be something.
Well, she's Evelyn, and they got the card Evelyn, the epic card. So she was already stoked when Adelaide came out, because we live in Adelaide, and so yeah, when they named a card after her, she's pretty stoked. She's convinced it's actually named after her, and I'm not going to ask those questions. I'm just going to assume that's true.
Yeah, why not?
Brilliant, man. Well, that sounds like a perfect kind of moment to steer the ship back towards the Soulbound conversation. So we were talking about the unlock stuff. How do we make it kind of balanced for the competitive player, for the new player? And I'm kind of the mindset, and I'd love to hear y'all's take of, since we've made reward cards Soulbound, I feel like really the name of the game is you're not going for those necessarily prize cards. You're looking for what's going to keep me competitive. So with that in mind, do you guys feel, and we're all kind of playing at whether it's wild or kind of gold level, Bob, I don't know where you're playing at this point in time, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on those early unlocks and making cards tradable. Is how much weight do you guys put in that argument to keep the competition up to snuff for the new players coming in? If somebody comes in today, they're 18 months behind on all these Soulbound cards with nothing to do in terms of how do I acquire them? It's and like we were talking about earlier, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword with the glint shot, because we know that a new set is coming in the coming months. If I'm a brand new player, I'm stacking all my glints. What is the right play here? Do I try and catch up and snag some of those Izzyars that is as relevant as ever in the meta, or do I save my glint for the next reward set and plan to perhaps purchase outright from Peak Monsters or something once Izzyar becomes unlockable and tradable? At which point that's a completely separate conversation, because at that point in time, realistically, we'll have less than a year of modern shelf life for a lot of those Soulbound cards. So it's a really fine balance that needs to be struck. I kind of err on the side of we need to keep the competition balanced. I don't think the RNG, I think, should play a role in determining what you're getting, but at the same time, I feel like everybody should kind of be moving forward at a pace similar to your comrades at rating levels, sort of thing.
Matt?
No, I agree. I think those who've had the 18 months to stack their reward cards should be playing at the higher league levels, and I think removing those league locks was wise for that reason, and for many others. So when somebody new does arrive, yes, they are definitely behind the 8 ball, but they should also be playing against other people who are also only recently arrived. And not getting destroyed. So I only play in Wild. I did try Modern for a while. I got a heap of Chaos Legion cards and still a couple of thousand packs. I tried in Modern, but I was getting destroyed by bronze players who were just so much better in bronze. And so I've got my cards, and often they're max level cards, but I'm getting the occasional win in bronze. I can't win my way into silver, where I can use those cards at a higher level, and my rewards are as if I'd only spent $1.50 on the game so far, right? Because I've got all these cards, but I'm not getting rewarded for having the cards at a higher level because I'm not playing them at that level. So for me, it was, look, I tried probably a month in Modern and got nowhere fast, and that's been a widespread experience. And so then I just switched back to Wild, and I've been doing great. I mean, I'm coming up in Champion, I'm coming up against teams that are under-leveled, and generally I think I've got a high win rate. I'm pulling in 1,500, 2,000 glint per win. It's, and that part of that's owning a castle, so there's 25% boost there. And so I kind of feel like Wild is a no-brainer for me at this point, and I'll be more than happy to pay the 40 vouchers a season to continue to play in Wild. I really think that's going to fix a lot of those problems. But yeah, the Soulbound rewards. I just trust Jabba to know how best to handle that. I'm definitely, like you just said, Hep, I'm definitely open to the idea of, okay, if you just make them tradable, sellable, then so be it. That is the simpler option. I can definitely see a lot of benefits to that direction as well. So I don't know. I feel like the idea, if we start with the idea that a new person can arrive, and if they're good enough, they can be playing Champion a month later, I think maybe we need to get rid of that mindset and say, no, you need to spend a long time getting good, getting the cards, pulling together the rewards and the cards that you need to actually level up, right? Rather than this, hey, if you just arrive and throw heaps of money at this game, then you can be playing in Champion, within a couple of weeks. I don't know if that's maybe so. I feel like we should maybe move away from that, because it sounds like it's money hungry, and it sounds like it's more focused on a crypto project rather than a video game. And we're walking a fine line there, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm also playing in Wild. I had similar problems with Modern, and I tried it, but I don't have a huge amount of Rift watches, and what I do have is not maxed. And before the league cap thing came in, I had two main accounts. One, my Boba Fett account, which playing in gold, and my Tartaria account playing in silver. So I only sort of leveled my summoners and my cards to gold. That was all I needed. I was just focused on getting everything up to gold. And once the cap type thing came in, I'm finishing each season in like Champion 2, and once with the uncapped aspect of it as well, I dropped whatever bank I could afford, and also I spent some SPS to get my summoners maxed so that I could benefit from them in Wild. I've still got some to go. Like I still need to get Persibolus, Astral Entity, and also Alrec. Still need to max them. They're all like level 3s and Alric's at level 7 as a rare. But yeah, I dropped whatever bank I could afford, and I spent a whole heap of SPS to get the cards, especially the summoners, because I had some cards that were maxed, but the summoners were holding me back. And the fact that I have no choice now, I'm finishing each season in Champion, rather my deck was maxed for gold. I had to get those cards up. And so then, of course, I'm suffering now from lack of SPS because I had to spend it to get the cards to that level. And now the recent change, the double requirements again in SPS, the rewards aren't, I guess it's like the rewards just be getting less and less and less. And I am quite time starved at the moment. So I do bot regularly for the leagues. I use Xbot. So, but I would be playing in Wild anyway. I'm not playing in Wild because I use Xbot. I'm playing in Wild because I just can't, just like Matt said, just can't get out of bronze in Modern. So my focus at the moment is simply maxing my cards, and I want a fully maxed Soulbound set as well. So I've been spending my end of season glint on the episode when we record 101. So I'm hodling my glint. So when season ends, I wait for the next episode and I spend my glint during the episode. And I start for the ultimate chests to the maximum that I've got for the glint. Then I go for legendary cards. All my commons are maxed. I think I have 2 cards in rare that I need, and a few epics and a bunch of goals. So at the moment, all my glint, a lot of people, Matt included, they've been going for the merits to get the gladiators leveled. So I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball there, and it's talking with, I think it was Magic the other day. Like, it's not because of these merits now. We're going to start seeing maxed gladiators pretty soon. We're going to be coming up against maxed gladiators in the brawls, but that doesn't really bother me because I always take a gold league fray for brawls. So I'm not limited by my Sibyllus, my Astral Entity. They're still good at gold for brawls, and I'm doing okay in the brawls, but I still need to get some of them up for Champion League, and I want a maxed reward set before they drop out. So at the moment, I'm spending all my glint on the chests, trying to get my reward cards maxed.
Nice. Yeah, I want to ask you, Bob, and Matt, I'll have you weigh in after too, but just because, yeah, someone who's been around for a while has, invested a lot of money in the game and the cards, and who plays in Wild, how do you feel about now this extra requirement where not only do we have to pay to play and earn rewards in Wild, the staking requirement for SBS is going to be doubled. So we're already at, a reduced earning of SBS, already at a reduced earning of glint. And now it feels like, they're adding other sort of, pieces on top of this as well, which are barriers to, getting rewards. So yeah, are you totally okay with it? Or are you kind of, this is, frustrating? Where does this end? Where does it stop? What's your take on these changes?
It's definitely frustrating. But I'm always of the adage, and you hear it like in a workplace or something like that, every time there's a change, everyone's whinging and whining and moaning. And I'm a huge advocate of vote with your feet. Just shut up or leave, one or the other. And I'm not going to be leaving. So, and this is out of my control. So I'm not going to whinge and whine. It is what it is. And like Matt mentioned earlier, it was at some point you just got to have faith that the team knows what it's doing, and Yabba in particular. For me to be second guessing his actions, his choices, his direction, I'm not qualified. I was never good at math. I was never good at economics. So I just, at this point, I just have faith that it is going somewhere. It is, and from the initial changes, we have seen a massive consolidation, which was the goal. And even myself, I started off just with one account, and it was when I just had a stacking spares. One day I realized, wow, I've got enough spares here to run a silver account. And so then that's what I did. And then eventually it was like I had enough spares to run a bronze account. So that's what I was doing. And like I've retired my bronze account. I don't play that anymore. I moved everything into my silver account, leveled what I could. And the whole idea was like the silver account was a feeder for the gold level account. So like as soon as I had enough BCX of something, I have no problems taking it out of the silver account, putting it into the gold account, because it was purely a feeder. It was, the silver was just cards, spare cards that I had weren't enough to level in the gold. So I moved all my bronze over the silver, leveled what I could, which then gave me some of the cards in my silver account I could move over into my gold. Had to drop a bit of bank as well, but leveled up on the gold. And now with the latest doubling of the SPS requirements, I'm thinking, well, I'm probably going to have to retire the silver account as well. So I can unstake the SPS from that, move that across into the gold, and then I'll because I also have another account which is purely rentals that I have on Splex. So I'll level what I can again, and everything that's left over I'll just chuck into my rental account for Splex. And that produces a little bit of income. It's nothing to retire on. But in the past it was just, I thought I can make more money playing in silver. I can make more money playing in bronze than I'm going to receive as a rental income renting those cards out. But now that's not the case. So I'm just going to go one more season, and then I will probably retire the silver account. Again, level what I can on the gold. I'm still referring to the silver account and the gold account, even though it doesn't mean anything anymore. But then just whatever's left over, just chuck it all onto my Splex account. If it rents, it rents. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yep, good question, Hep. I think it does feel a lot like pulling the ladder up after yourself, right? So we've got all this SPS. While it was just falling from the sky, the streets were paved with gold. While that was all good, those of us who've been here a while, we've stacked that, we've staked it. Now we're saying, okay, now if you want to play, you need to pay this, and your staking requirements are going up, and it does feel like it's pulling the ladder up after yourself. I think the goal, the direction that Matt wants to take is that people arrive and they just play modern. And Wild is a big, scary jungle place over there that everything the light touches, Simba, don't go over there. That's Wild. That's the scary, dangerous. That's for people who've been in the game for a long time, who think that they're good. They're the people who, they're the ones who are willing to come up against some combination of cards they've never seen before. Cards that the old school stuff, people who are happy to not be able to predict what they're going to come up against, people who are happy to pay. They're making enough out of the game that they're able to pay, or bringing in outside money, that they're willing and able to pay that season fee to compete in the Wild place. And I think that's the idea, is almost that modern becomes part of the player experience, or the new player experience, where somebody arrives and they're guided towards modern. You look at the screen, modern's there. You need to go and click on Wild if you want to go into Wild, and you're probably going to regret it, right? You're going to face this fee, and you face these other cards, and there's no rules and restrictions, and it's a free for all, and it's dangerous and scary. Stay here, right? I kind of see modern as almost being like the kiddie pool, where you arrive and you got to be good, but you know which cards you're going to come up against. It's the latest two, right? And so taking a whole lot of people from Wild, and you're not going to come up against bots as well, taking a whole lot of people from Wild and pushing them back into modern I think is the right move at the moment. And so doing it this way, where it's okay, you've got this season pass to play. If you're not going to make enough in Wild to justify the cost, then better off staying in Modern, right? Build your deck, build your knowledge of the game, build up your SPS earnings and account and how much you have staked, get your Soulbound stuff together. And then one day, when it's time to be a man, you pick up your spear, you head out into the wilderness, and you go and try your luck in Wild. But I think that's the idea, that the direction we're going, that you might be in the game for a year, 18 months before you even attempt Wild. And I'm all for that. I like it. I like the idea that they're very different vibes, different almost games, not just something, it's a minor setting that you switch between, but Modern's where you start and Wild is where you're looking to end up.
Another point there actually with the Modern and Wild is I don't have, I have one Rebellion card, the Prishna Summoner, free mana Summoner. So that's it for Rebellion. And I don't, as I mentioned previously, very limited Rift Watchers. So if I do go to Modern, I'm just going to be coming up against a whole bunch of cards that I don't even know half of their abilities. I remember the first brawl that I went into, and it was like ambush. It was like, what? What's this ambush? Then I'm going to look at all of these cards that I've got from Alpha, Beta, Untamed that are useless to me, that I can't use in Modern. But if it reaches a point, even from if I can't afford to play in Wild, do I play in Modern and just get my ass kicked every game? Or another option to consider is, do I just put all of my cards into the rental account and stop playing? I mean, I would never leave the game, but I'm too invested to do that. But after what's the point? Like playing in Modern, if I can't win, I can't use all of these cards that I've bought and dropped a lot of bank to get some of these cards, and they're useless to me. All I can do is rent them out. It's a dilemma, and I think it's going to take a couple of seasons to suss that out. I'll play Wild for and just see what it's costing me. I mean, 40 vouchers a season, or 2,000 deck. What's the equivalent in rewards? And it's hard when you're balancing that, you have to weigh apples and oranges with your glint. What's that equivalent value in DEC?
Right.
Or SPS. So I've got apples in this scale and oranges in this one, and trying to figure out, am I doing the right thing? Is there an ROI on continuing to play in Wild, or do I just rent all my cards out and just brawl for a while?
I mean, it's going to take. So if I'm not mistaken, the Wild Pass and this new iteration of Wild is coming into the mix next update cycle, right? So next week, I think. And it'll take, I think it took maybe a season or two for SPS to really balance out in Modern once they adjusted the pools, based on
is
ranked
it coming in
rewards.
the next one, or I thought it was put in the last one, but they're going to activate it at the end of this season.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what's happening.
Which is like
it's coming soon, right?
Yeah, I think the beginning of next season is when it gets implemented.
Okay, cool. So I mean, it should take a couple of weeks for stuff to balance out, right? But SPS, we should start to see a dramatic difference, right? Because right now it's, what did Yaba say? 75,000 accounts competing for in Wild at the moment, and we're still seeing. I was just looking at the Peak Monsters dashboard. We're still seeing a ton of battles playing in Wild. It's over 300K. Granted, less than a week ago, we were at 465, 470K. So we're already starting to see the number of battles dip off. And, I think that's, my hunch tells me that's where we're seeing that additional sell pressure from SPS. Folks are, dumping while they can, getting out, selling cards, Yeah. So I think it'll take a little bit to kind of balance out. I would love to see, because I run a silver wild account for brawls for YGG. That's where I've got my llama. That's where I got my cron. That's where I've been, buying all those fun wild cards that are on bargain bin prices right now. But I just don't have the income from DEC or vouchers to kind of continually fund that. So something that I would love to see, and I was a little bit surprised it didn't get included, is why can't I pay $2 in credits for the pass? I would totally do that. I know
Credits is an
Matt
option.
for the wild pass.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I thought it was just
Yeah.
DEC or vouchers.
I was just looking at that this morning. Keep going. I'll find it and then I'll bring it up.
Oh, because I thought that I thought the whole part of the purpose was trying to curb the DEC from continuing to spiral. So everything's getting burned. Matt made it very clear they're not taking revenue from any wild pass purchase. And
says-
all vouchers are getting burned too.
I think, but don't they buy the DEC with the credits and then burn it? I think like the
So it
team
says
takes the
here-
credits and buys the DEC themselves, I think.
Wild season pass
Oh.
cost. The wild season pass costs 40 vouchers or 2,000 deck or 2,000 deck B or 2,000 credits.
Oh, perfect. Well, night.
Is that something you think you'll do, Jangles? You think you'd rather just, hit up the PayPal account or something to throw some credits on to keep it going, as opposed to trying to move DEC around or sell SPS or?
So because the main account be Jangles, every last voucher that I get goes straight to energy. I just want to be able to play and stack SPS as much as possible. So I think theoretically I would have the vouchers per season to fund the smaller account.
Mhm.
And I would probably do that if I was botting my main account in wild, but because I'm playing in modern and because I'm trying to shoot for that leaderboard spot, I do make on average 20-40K DEC leaderboard payout at the end of the season.
Say,
So
yeah, you get that out of that's can fund
Yeah.
you.
that would pay for it. But most of the time I've just been swapping that over immediately to vouchers to continue that cycle of I want more battles to play. Now good to know. Thanks, Bob. I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? I've heard some folks say that wild cards are going to plummet because of this thing. I tend to be of the mindset that wild cards are, we should be close to the bottom. I would expect as accounts, continue this big exodus from wild, and therefore rewards are going to start going up. I would assume that the market prices associated with the cards to compete in wild are going to follow that trend as well. But where do you guys think we're going to be seeing these wild cards moving in the short to medium term?
It is really hard to tell. It depends how much money's been sitting on the sidelines waiting for the opportunity to buy them cheap. A lot of people will perhaps think that this is going to be their last opportunity to go back and buy a Dwarven Wizard, because, okay, they're reasonably cheap now, but people selling them up, moving away from wild, moving into modern, are they going to hit the market again, or are they going to get bought by somebody like myself who's buying them to speculate, hoard, rent them out, whatever the case may be? There's so many different sets of sentiment and deep pockets on both sides. It's almost impossible to tell, I think, what's going to happen with wild pricing. I think the fact that the older cards have that extra production point value on land, I think that's really puts a floor on how low they can go. I think anyone who's got that long-term vision for the game and some land that they need to fill, somebody like myself, for example, isn't going to sell those cards beyond below a certain amount, simply because they're valuable over on land. And once they're sold, you're probably not going to be able to buy them back at anywhere near that kind of price down the track. So this might be I've said a few times recently, this is the golden age right now. People will arrive 2 years from now. They'll see the price of all these older cards. They'll see the price of Chaos Legion packs, and they'll say, "What the hell? You guys could have been buying Chaos Legion packs for 45 cents on tribal decks." That was the golden age. It doesn't feel like at the time. Golden ages never feel like the golden age while you're living through them. But a couple of years down the road from now, people will look back and they'll say, "I can't believe you guys were just living through that, just the land of milk and honey, and there was just nothing but salt coming from the player base." But you guys were actually all these assets now that are absurdly priced, hotly contested by a large contingent of players. They're almost borderline unavailable to the common man. But back then, you could just buy a Chaos Legion pack and 45 cents and open it and get 5 Chaos Legion cards. Oh my god, I can't believe that was that you guys were salty at the time. So I really feel like right now we're in the golden age. And grab those wild cards while you can. The alpha, the beta, untamed, the orb packs, the dice packs. Now's the time.
I just quickly jumped over and had a look at that 35 BCX Alric. He has come down $5. He's now $65. I need 35 BCX of Alric to max Alric, and I've been like checking weekly, and because there is a 35 BCX on the market, and yeah, it's come down another $5. So if we are waiting for them to bargain basement prices, I would see that as a plus, because nothing's going to stay in the bargain basket. But yeah,
Jangles and I have been talking about some of these cards and some untamed cards. Look, at some of these beta cards are definitely looking at appealing prices right now. I did buy that Lorna, so I finally got a Lorna. It was like a card I never really thought I'd ever own. And I was like, there's no way I'll ever own this card. But yeah, I got a level.
Great for a low mana match.
Yeah, I do the the all cards, the wild cards gold level brawls in the guild as well. So I was always renting that card for brawls, and it was pretty reasonable to rent and just for a couple days to do it for the brawl. And I was just doing that, and then watching the price get lower and lower and lower. And finally it was like, yeah, for $40 I can get, the level 6. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. Just so yeah, it's yeah, it is nice. I mean, if you look at it from the point of you like playing the game and you don't mind spending a little bit of money on some of these cards, then yeah, it's I'm not like buying cards as like an investment at this point. I'm just kind of buying those cards that I've been renting for brawls or wanted to have playing wild, and just because I mean, at this point, if I with the price of the Rebellion cards where they are, it's like, do I spend $60 on a rare Rebellion card to get it up to gold level, or do I spend there's like you could spend $10, $12 on some of these beta cards to get get them at that level, and it's just kind of like, well, yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer for me. I don't know.
Yeah, on that note, I just spent $12 on a level 2 Magnor.
Nice.
That's absurd. I remember, when it was early days of the podcast, but I was proud of myself for acquiring a $40 single BCX of Magnor. And here I am getting 3 BCX for $12. So yeah, I'm continuing to kind of slowly build out my Untamed stuff. I feel like Untamed is something that I'm familiar enough with to where I know the impact. I know how much fun it is with those cards in brawls. But like you have, gold foil Lorna, gold foil Mylor. That's like something of lore. Like I never ever would have thought that I would have owned a Mylor, much less a gold foil Mylor. So yeah, I think the way that I look at the cards is really the means to an end of acquiring SPS. And I've really shifted my focus with that was the big. There was a lot of other stuff kind of changing in the background when Rebellion started coming out, or we were talking about Rebellion, the pot that was available for acquiring SPS really took a hike with in Modern, and made it a really compelling argument. Why wouldn't I go into Rebellion? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at this season, and so far I've got about a little bit over 9K SPS that I've earned through ranked battles. So just looking at that over a long enough timeline, I feel like Rebellion, if SPS goes anywhere, it's going to pay for the set that I've invested in spades.
Actually, SPS has just broken some new ground.
Now tell us,
It's now
hot off the
it's
press.
now under 9.9 cents. It's this is a record low, isn't it, for SPS? So to address the elephant in the room, so to speak.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't a giant buy wall at a penny. You know, maybe there was a buy wall and there was just enough sell pressure that we smashed right through it. But looking at the charts on Splinter cards, we just fell in a hurry. It was a balloon attached to a lead weight, just completely plummeted. DEC too. Yeah, so I'm just wondering if there's just too much sell pressure and not enough folks had that, because I feel like the psychological marker of penny SPS feels appealing, or feels like something that we want to protect. And I don't know what my plans are. I'm going to continue kind of buying into the game, buying I think cards are where I get the fun. I enjoy the DAO, the governance, and playing my role in being able to vote. But I'm never going to catch up to the guys like our esteemed guest over here, Mr. Two Castles. I feel like every time we talk to you, Matt, you got a new title. Whether it's the Magister or the Untamed Fairy or the you name it, the Fleshy. I feel like every time we welcome you back on, you got more suffixes and prefixes to your name. But yeah, I feel like cards are where I get my primary source of fun and entertainment. And as long as I'm continuing to kind of earn the SPS, I feel like it's the juice is worth the squeeze in my mind.
I had a fantastic battle with Magnor the other day. I've got him maxed, and it was so fun. I reckon I watched it 3 times. It was Equalizer and Reach were the rule sets. I can't remember if there was a third, but yeah, Equalizer and Reach were the important ones. So I had Exploding Rats, obviously very volatile, but normally low health, but Equalizer sort of Exploding Rats, then Magnor, and then the Exploding Dwarf. And so it was so funny because Magnor and the Dwarf both have Enrage and Trample, and so the an Exploding Rats doesn't miss. He's got True Shot. Anyway, what was happening was the Rats and Magnor were both just wrecking their first 2 cards, but Magnor obviously with Taunt is copping some magic damage. So when he vanished, then the Dwarf stepped into the second position, and from there he could start attacking as well. And it was just this, it was an absolute barrage. Just insane. So Magnor had done a bit of trampling, then my Exploding Dwarf did a bit of trampling because, and so that, I think the joy of this game is when that perfect confluence of rule sets arrives, then the mana cap's just right, and then you have an idea of how you can actually tackle this, and then it just comes off, and there's something so satisfying about that. So I really enjoyed that match, and looking back afterwards, the guy I was up against was a little bit underleveled. I'm like, this, maybe I just beat him with better cards, but there was just something so satisfying about this mental. The other one I've been having a lot of fun with at the moment it's an older card, Torhio the Frozen. He's a epic water card, and I've been trying to use him a lot more because originally when he first came out, Alric was sort of, it was very, very magic based. So he has Void, which is handy, but the summoner was not really conducive to a melee. But now with Persibolus, I'm sort of looking at some of these water melee cards and thinking, what can I do here? And I'm also a big fan of the Ice Pixie, another older card, but she's for 2 mana. She attacks quite fast and she's got a bit of shatter. And so she's quite a valuable addition. So I'm trying at the moment to work in a situation where I've got Persibolus. I just put Ice Pixie in front, and low mana match, Ice Pixie in front, and then Torhio the Frozen in the back. So they're going to take out the Ice Pixie first, whether it's a Fog of War match or just a regular match. And I hope they don't have a heap of sneaks. But I'm picturing the Ice Pixie hits first, shatters, and then pretty much just dies. But then Torhio steps into first position, and now he has trample from. He had reach, right? So if Ice Pixie doesn't die, then Persibolus has already given him. So he can attack from second position anyway. But then he's trampling, but he's also got Last Stand, and I love Last Stand. But normally it's only my Cron. I got a Cron, but he's only like level 2. Last Stand, I overplay it, like Llama, Last Stand Cube, Last Stand Flesh Golem. I have so much fun with Last Stand Rexy, an enraged Last Stand Rexy in a trample rule set is just so much fun. So I've been limited though in that it's basically just been the Llama giving me Last Stand, and now I'm looking at Torhio and thinking I can do some Persibolus Last Stand fun. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get this party started. So that's been my thing at the moment, and that's the joy of these older cards. A new summoner can come along and just transform the older wild card. And I know the guy I'm coming up against is going, what the hell is this big bull? I've never even seen this card before. That's something really satisfying to me.
Have you, either Bob or Matt, have you guys experimented with either Vanka or Lorcus just yet? No. Oh man, I've said it a few times on the show, and I continue to stand by it. I think Lorcus is the most fun summoner in the game. Matt, I remember distinctly you calling out how much fun your daughter was having with the tactics, and how you've kind of taken to, that next level of gameplay. And I feel like Lorcus just takes it to a completely different level, and the amount of versatility that's made available with, building these teams to get the life leech, or, oh wow, they played a taunt in this match, I wasn't expecting it. You can call that audible and adjust. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the remainder of Rebellion shaking out and seeing what comes of these legendary summoners. I don't think my excitement is there as much for Cryptic as it was for Lorcus. I could be wrong, and maybe Cryptic is a complete game changer. But
I feel like when Cryptic first came out, you were more excited for him than Lorcus. But then I guess now that Lorcus is out and you get to play with it, you realize this is pretty awesome.
I'll probably change my tune every summer. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be realistic, man.
What are Cryptic Splinters again? It's death and what else? I like that.
Water.
Death and water. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
You're gonna change your mind.
It's likely.
You're gonna change your mind, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like your 2 favorite
probably.
Splinters. So
yeah. Well, starting Rebellion with 2 death summoners, you can't go wrong. That's my bag. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I've got the one that's life and water. I bought a gold foil level 5 because there really wasn't that much difference in price. So I thought, might as well go gold foil. So gold foil, but only level 5. So that's on my silver account at the moment. But it's just, for 3 mana, and unless you've got like the wild cards, sometimes you're really stuck for like a level 3 mana. So I really like that, and plus 2 splinters. But quite often, you're going for the level 3 summoner, and one of the splinters might not be available out of the 2 that you've got, but it's still a level 3 summoner rather than a 4 or a 6 in a low mana rule set. That can be just that one extra mana in a monster card can make a difference. But yeah, that's the only Rebellion card that I've got. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting the way one change can affect other things. I think the dual splinter summoners, which I haven't engaged with much at all, But the dual mana summoners, I think, now that we've got, if you picture a 60 mana match, and there's only 4 slots available now with that new rule sets that are limiting, how many slots you have. That might mean that you've got you might not have, particularly in Modern, you might not have enough in any Splinter to really fill that and do it justice. But if you've got a dual Splinter summoner, and say there's only Water and Death are the only available Splinters, and you've only got a couple in each Splinter that actually has those high, you can use that summoner to bring that together and bring all of those high mana cards in together to make use of that mana cap in that, and then just win because you had the cards rather than necessarily winning on strategy, which I think is completely fine and valid. So it's interesting the way all of this plays in. This change over here actually has an effect over here, and I've found myself recently. I'll often, even though I have a massive, stockpile of cards, there will still be, if the rule sets limit you so much, right? If it's magic only, plus even Stevens, plus only commons and rares, and you have a massive high mana cap, sometimes you struggle to fill it, right? And that's me and Wild with cards from all sorts of different editions over the years. So yeah, I think it's just about versatility, and if we are buying those cards and stocking up on different cards, then when that particular confluence of mana cap rule sets, when that all comes together, you can reach for the cards that actually pull everything together and get that win, and that's where the satisfaction's at, right? That's where the dopamine's at.
For sure.
I think we got the a little bit of a leak last time that the next summoner to be coming our way is going to be Fire and Earth. What's it going to take for somebody like you, Matt, to get your hands on one of these guys? I mean, I don't know what the Rebellion rental market is. I would guess that maybe there's a couple of Max Lorcases available, but the liquidity in the marketplace and the rental marketplace is just slim to none. So what is it going to take to compel you enough to pull the trigger on one of these summoners?
I guess to me, there's not that sense of urgency, right? So I've been focusing, especially while prices are low, I've been focusing on those older cards because I really feel like that door's on the way to closing. Whereas Rebellion, I don't have that. There's no FOMO there, right? Because Rebellion's still going to be around for a while. So I haven't had that. I don't have those wolves nipping at my heels when it comes to Rebellion, and I've always been okay with when you get my kind of win rate, you're okay. You develop a thick skin, right? So I don't mind if I get smashed by Venka. It's like, okay, cool, okay, good for you. I've always had this, I guess, because I'm fairly well known within the game too. That when somebody beats me, I picture somebody sitting there going, "Wow, I just beat Matt Clark. That guy's got 2 castles, all of the flesh golems, and I just beat him. Yeah, this is great." So I kind of feel like it's not that I'm not throwing matches, right? If you see my name on the screen, understand 2 things. I chose that team manually. I'm sitting here at my computer, and I will watch the battle. I've watched them all, 45,000 or something. I'll watch them all at triple speed, and I'll watch it until I can tell what's going to happen, right? Once it's okay, yeah, click to results. But I'm there, I'm watching. So if you've got an appetite to play against a human being and play against a big human being that a lot of people know about, a guy with a whole heap of cards, if you come up against me, understand those 2 things. I picked the team manually. I watched the battle. I felt whatever I'm meant to feel at the tail end of it. And if you beat me and you're stoked about that, then that's good for the game, right? So I'm like, that's how I cope when I'm not celebrating, doing my little happy dance. I'm coping by thinking, well, I've given somebody a rush because they beat Matt Clark. So that's my take on it. But I'm not too concerned about losing. I know which cards I like. Often I'll see the mana cap and rule set, and I've already got a pretty good idea of where I'm going to go with the cards that I already have. So until Rebellion starts getting close to coming to an end, and I start really feeling like I'm going to miss out on something here, to me it's about stacking Chaos Legion packs at 45 cents. I've still got nearly 2,000 plots I need to fill, right? So I'm being torn in just too many different directions. So if I'm paying a lot of money for a Rebellion pack or a very little amount of money for a Chaos Legion pack with twice the production points, it's kind of a no-brainer. And now it's even competing with the really cheap older cards, because there's still plenty of holes in my deck that I've thought, oh, I'd love to get a Mylor, for example. I don't know, my Mylor is like 4 BCX, so I'd love to do that. We were talking in the last Splinterlands 101 podcast. Bob and Geo just they just took turns pummeling me. It was embarrassing. And so now I got to get a Jin Chwala and a Corsair Bosun. Got to max them out too, because they were partially responsible. I can't believe that Bob and Geo beat me. I've got to think that their cards beat me to just psychologically get through.
Well, there's no excuse for not having a maxed Jin Chihuahua.
That's very true.
But
Yeah.
like my Bosun is only level 3, because again, Rift Watches are still a bit pricey. But there's no. I'm shocked that you don't have a maxed Chihuahua. It's such.
There's a rewards
such a
card too,
card.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas the Bosun is a Rift Watcher, so fair enough, But Chihuahua, why do you not have a max Chihuahua? There's no excuse for that.
So Matt, I do want to circle back with, we touched on that, your idea of having different rewards levels for different staking periods of SPS, and how you kind of thought that would kind of help out the ecosystem of the game. Is this something you've talked about with any other people, or thought about putting a proposal together? Because that seems to me that would be something that would be controlled by the DAO, and a DAO proposal would kind of be sort of not like necessarily binding on the team, but maybe the team would want the DAO to pay for the dev time to put it together. But I feel like it's something that could be implemented, and it would be one of those things where it would fall under the jurisdiction of the DAO. Have you thought about that at all, or have you had discussions with any other players in the game, any other large SPS holders?
I guess it's not. I mean, a graduated staking reward. This concept is not. It's not a new concept that I invented. This conversation actually kind of happened when SPS first came out. There was a lot of discussion around this and whether that could. So I guess I've always kind of known that it's something that Yabba's aware of as a concept, but something that the Yabba and Aggie at the time chose not to go down that path. So I would say it's not so much about introducing it. It's more about which direction do we want to go. Do we want to try and give people stuff that they can't sell, or do we want to give them less stuff or give them more stuff the more committed they are to the game? And I think we're moving in that direction anyway, right? So SPS, you double the staking requirement. I would rather say, hey, let's double the staking period rather than double the staking requirement. That would be my focus, rather than so we don't get the. I feel like we need to move away from we're a crypto casino where you throw your chips in and then you take whatever chips you get and then you leave. And like, I had a fascinating conversation with the guy a few years ago where he said, how much do you have? How much do you pull out of the game? How much have you put in? It basically just quizzing me. And he'd been in crypto games for quite a while, and he was very much treating it like a casino. And I've mentioned this before in the 101 podcast, but his mindset was the very hunter-gatherer. Arrive, pick all the berries, burn the bushes for firewood and warmth. Then tomorrow morning you pack up your tents and you leave. And a hunter-gatherer can't comprehend what farming is, what homesteading is, and he'll ask you questions that give that away. He'll say, how much can your children carry? How many kilometers can they run in a day? He'll ask questions based on a hunter-gatherer mindset. And I really feel like we need to move away from that and say, no, here we're farmers, right? We're going to plant the tree, we're going to fertilize it, we're going to water it every day. And when it comes harvest time, we're going to save some of those seeds and we're going to plant them and plant more trees. And we're not just going to slaughter every head of cattle we see. We're going to domesticate them. We're going to put up fences. And so I really feel like we need to be focusing on that and looking at only paying out rewards to people who have really put in that have committed to that long time period. So yeah, look, I think a year unstaking on SPS would solve a lot of our problems. And if you want it liquid, that's fine, but you don't get any of the governance benefits. You don't get any of the, voting for proposals and the like. And I look at some of the bigger, wiser accounts, and a lot of them are some people who would not hesitate to lock in their SPS for 12 months. Right? They're just, oh yeah, sure, bam, not even think about it. The people who would say, oh yeah, but I got plans for this month. I want to do this, and I want to, I feel like the decisions should be made. If it is a governance token, then decisions should be made by somebody with a longer time horizon than just a month. That's been, I guess, gnawing at me for a while now.
Man, I would love to see that make its way to the top and come to fruition as a proposal, and make it optional, right? I mean, continue the offer of you can have a 4-week unstake period, but your ROI is going to be X. Whereas if you opt for the 12-month or 24-month, you're going to see that multiplier grow in a corresponding fashion.
When I first arrived at Steam, it was only a couple of grand. It was just a token amount that I moved across from Bitcoin, but I locked that in for 104 weeks, and I was glad to do it because I knew that all the other people around me were also locking in their Steam for 104 weeks. So I know my peers are people with that long-term time horizon, right? So I was kind of bothered when they said, "Oh, okay, we've changed it now. It's 13 weeks unstaking period instead of the 104." And I thought, well, okay, yeah, that gives me more flexibility, but I wasn't planning to unstake any of it. This is 6 years ago. I've been staked the entire time, right? So I wasn't planning to power down anyway. But now my peers are people that can just up and go. I like that. I like that commitment. I think how far could you get in a marriage if it was a 1 month deal, right? Like sometimes you need to be somebody who's planning for the longer term and willing to commit to the longer term. And I think as a almost minimum, I'd like to see battle rewards, SPS1 in battles, auto staked for a year. If we have an optional shorter staking period for stuff that you've manually staked yourself, okay, I'm okay with that. But I would like to see SPS1 in battles staked for a year. I think the mentality of the SPS staking period is a month has hurt us too much, because then we'd say, do we give these people SPS or not? How much do they need to have staked in order to win how much SPS in battles? That's limited our thinking, I think. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess I'll have a bit of a think about it and ask around and see if anybody else would like to, see if it has popular support. Yeah, it's good. It's not something I've thought of pushing hard on because I've been aware that Yabba's sort of aware of all of this. But as you mentioned, Hep, it's more of a DAO thing now. And I know Yabba's trying to distance himself somewhat from that. So maybe it is something that we need to talk about separately and aside from that, and at least ask around and see if other people like it.
Yeah, because my understanding is, the staking SPS staking rewards are from the DAO, and so I don't think Matt could. I don't know if it's something he's thinking about. I'm sure if he thought it would be a good thing for the game, he would probably bring it up. Maybe he's not thinking about it, but yeah, I don't. This is not something that I think the team could do without a DAO vote. So yeah, and I think it's powerful, right? I think it's very powerful. If you think about, how is this game different from other, Web3 games? And there's always going to be the new game. There's always going to be, the token that's higher because it just got released. That's, on the steady decline. There's always going to be those hunter-gatherers, like you said, Matt, who are going to move from new project to new project and just try to extract what they can out of it, burn to the ground and then move on. But the people who are, interested in these games for maybe more than just trying to make a quick buck, even if they're playing other games, they say, well, I got burned on this, I got burned on this. When they look around and say, well, who's been here for a while? If, maybe even if the token is down or it's worth less money, or, you can't earn as many rewards. If I want to be somewhere where there's more stability that I can play and be at long term, Well, here's Splinterlands over here. They've been at it for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, wherever however further we get, and they put up those walls and they built that community and they built in that manner that I can't just jump in and pump some money in and pump a bunch of money out and jump out. I've got to be committed. And if that's what I'm looking for, then that's where you go, right?
Yeah, and the problem is with the hunter-gatherer mentality, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because you don't want to be the one farmer in a hunter-gatherer society, because your cattle is going to get slaughtered. It's not going to work out well for you. There's people that don't respect the long term, and so I kind of I come down on the side of, if somebody looks at the game and they see, oh, hang on, my earnings are going to be locked away for a year. But they're still yours. You still own them, and at the end of that year, you can sell them if that's what you want to do, minimum of a year. Then, if those people arrive and say, I don't want to commit to this game for a year, I don't want my earnings to be locked away for a year, maybe we don't want those players, right? Like, it's one thing to say, I want to try this. Okay, great. Rent some cards, give it a try. So be it. But if being committed to a 1 year power down in order to cash out your earnings is something that's a deterrent for you, then you're somebody who belongs in a different game, right? Yeah. Because here, this is what I'm talking about before, with what's clearly emerging as Matt's vision of, you arrive, new player experience, you hang out in Modern, right? And then you get your favorite cards in Modern, and then you follow them to Wild, because I love this card, I use him all the time, he's my favorite, some of my best victories have been with him. He's aging out of Modern now. He's going into Wild, but I'm big enough now. I got enough cards, and I bought the newer packs. So I've actually got quite a wide range now. I've been in the game for 2 years, 3 years. I'm going to follow my favorite cards into Wild, and I'm going to pay vouchers, but that's okay. I'm getting vouchers and SPS staked, and I've got some rental income coming in, and I've got some maybe I'm in the grain LP, right? So the idea is that you arrive and you hang around for a few years. So if you're looking to, like the guy I was talking to who was very underwhelmed with Splinterlands, when I said I got assets worth about, I don't know, $3 million at the time, and I'm pulling no money out because everything's just getting reinvested, he was like, why would you risk millions of dollars in this project and not even be pulling anything out as quick as you can? Because he's just a total hunter-gatherer mindset. And so to him, he bailed. He wasn't interested, and that's fine. I think the game's probably better off without him. It's not even a judgment call. It's not an ethics call. It's just you're living that way, and we're over here. We're choosing to live this way, and I'd like to see that more embraced. Let's not do the whole arrive, throw some money at it, and then time your exit. Right? That's not. Yeah, I talked about this the other day on the podcast. The success in this arena shouldn't be leaving at the right moment, right? You don't say that of any other arena. The best NASCAR driver. Oh yes. Oh, did you see when he left? Oh, when he retired? Oh, that was fantastic timing on his retirement. No, you talk about his wins, right? Whereas we've got to get away from this mentality that winning is leaving the game with more than what you arrived with. That shouldn't be success here, right? It's not success anywhere else. Anywhere else, success is actually being successful within that space, not successfully timing your exit from that space.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I feel like getting it kicked off with having the different tiers and on a longer staking and lock period, different tiers for kind of like the rewards or the ROI there. I feel like that's a great way to go. I feel like you'd get a lot of pushback on the battle rewards being, staked at a year to begin with. I think that's probably a much tougher sell. But maybe if you start, we start with, hey, let's do different tiers of, rewards for staking. Maybe that gets people kind of seeing the benefits of it, and then you can kind of eventually get there.
Well, maybe it's Glint.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not SPS emissions in ranked battles that you see a bump. It's Glint. So it's rewarding that ownership and commitment, because we kind of see there's a little bit of a precedent for that longer term staking taking place through conflicts, right? Because I stake all my cards in Rebellion, and the longer that I've got these cards owned and staked on battle wagons, the more likely I'm going to earn more cards that I can steamroll into subsequent airdrops, right? So that's kind of already here. Obviously it's in a very different fashion through SPS staking versus cards, but in my mind, conflicts has been the greatest change to the new sets that we've ever seen. It was, in my mind, revolutionary to what we're doing here. And I think using that concept for the longer term, I haven't heard anybody, the leader, I look at the leaderboard regularly on airdrops, and it's not changing. It's not changing negatively, I should say. I see more people, kind of shuffling around in the top 10, top 15, because more people are buying into accrue these airdrops, and everything's tied up for at least another 6 months, right? Which is great for cards and great for the set. So man, yeah, I would love to see. I would be really shocked if there wasn't kind of widespread outspoken support for something like these longer term commitments to staking SPS. I think at least at this point in time, the core contingency that continues to remain committed to the game, they're exactly that. They're committed to the game. They're committed to seeing what's on the other side. We're watching all these, kind of bot accounts shake out with this wild pass thing. And at the same time, I scroll through Twitter, scroll through X, and half of the guys that I know on there are flashing, yo, I just dropped $100 on 5 different maxed out gold foil cards from they're continuing, not quite double down, but they're putting their money where their mouth is. And it's kind of a tale of two cities with what we kind of hear of Discord and what you actually see. The guys that I know are committed to playing this game. They love playing this game. They're committed to the community. They're committed to seeing this thing kind of pan out. I would certainly never classify myself as one of the bigger and wiser accounts, but I would stake for a year in a heartbeat. So yeah, Matt, I would love to see, you're eloquent with words, man, and I would love to see these analogies that you've dropped here on the episode make its way into the proposal. I think it's a compelling argument, man.
Look, it's funny because I'm trying to think of like lore, how that could tie into lore. The splinter shards, some sort of way of freezing them or locking them, or something where you voluntarily say, well, I'm gonna bury them deeper in the machine that harvests the energy from them. I'm trying to bury them deeper in the mine, or so remove them from my ability, take them further away from the market, basically, where I'm locking them in. And I was even thinking, and I don't think this would work, it's just popped into my head, but I was even thinking separate tiers of proposals where only SPS staked for a minimum of 6 months could vote on this proposal. And obviously that would be very difficult to say which proposals should be, which proposals should have which staking periods. But we could be at the very cusp of some real revolutions in governance there. So I'm just thinking out loud at the moment. But yeah, the law possibilities, I think, of having variable staking periods are really interesting. But I felt reassured by that 104-week staking period. I'd have gone to 5 years when it came to Steam, and I've been around for 6. But I think the idea that not just that it's staked for a year, but also that as soon as you start that year, you're not getting governance votes for it. You're not getting, that SPS now is just its entire thing. The only thing it's doing now is just thawing out, waiting to become liquid, right? That's literally all it's doing. So you're not getting any benefit from it. You're not getting benefit from, and obviously this sounds kind of harsh, but I think if you want to bail, you should hit the "I'm going to bail now" button, power down all my SPS, and then come back in a year, right? You're not voting on proposals. You're not doing other. You're not winning a whole lot of SPS or glint in battle rewards and all that type of thing. While that's going on, you may as well just sell all your cards and then come back in a year and collect your SPS. I know it sounds harsh, but I really feel like that's that's the direction that we should move. So anyway, I'll give it some thought and maybe pull a proposal together. I'll chat to a few heavy hitters and see if there is that appetite for that, and even I guess spend some time thinking about how that would look. What is that? Lots to think about.
Well, I don't have a whole lot of DEC to my name, but I would happily contribute to any sort of proposal fee should you decide to take the plunge. And I don't think you've submitted a proposal before, have you, Matt? Would this be the first?
No, it would be my first. Yeah, I sponsored a couple. I think Holazor had a couple that he put up. I saw him the other day. Actually, he's doing well.
Cool.
He's been out of the game for a while now, but he's still around. I still see him from time to time. So yeah, I've sponsored I think 2 of his, but I've not actually posted one of my own in the past. So yeah, that could be fun to engage at that level too. But they don't expect it anytime soon. I think about things for a long time before I act on them. So yeah. But if anyone watching has feedback or thoughts, absolutely throw them and let us know. Throw them in the comments.
Even maybe as a stepping stone, like for the people who are hesitant to do something like that, even if we just matched like the Hive blockchain with it's 13 weeks for unstaking, and you get 1/13 a week for 13 weeks. Most people in Splinterlands have come from Hive rather than coming into Splinterlands then going into Hive. So they would already be used to that 13-week staking period. Because from my point of view, 13 weeks, and then you come over to Splinterlands and go, oh, it's only 4 weeks. Because 13 weeks is your normal. So even just that, and then once, incrementalization. It's a step towards where you want to go, but more people are likely to accept and come to terms with that 13 weeks because, well, that's what the Hive blockchain does.
I like it, man. I'm thinking about, with all this stuff, the changes, whether it's the league locks or, the double SPS requirements in Wild or no more earnings with starter cards, all these little incremental changes, we have to think about what is the new player perspective on this stuff? What does this look like from the lens of a new player? And I have to think, suppose that we do have year, 2 year, 3 year staking availability for folks to come in and commit to that sort of longer time frame. That paints a good picture towards, and I would love to see a dashboard. Hey, we've got Matt Clark with 9 figures, whatever, staked for the next 60 months. And you can see, the whales and who your buddies, what is their commitment to the game. And it's put in plain view as a new player coming in and being able to visually see and grasp, wow, this community is really tight knit. This community is committed to the long term. That's got to paint a great picture in terms of, this is where I want to, build my farm.
You got to ask, what's our value proposition compared to other games, right? Other games that we're competing against. And a game that a AAA studio or somebody else comes out with tomorrow, right? There's a chance that it's the tokenomics is wrong. It's a Ponzi. It's whatever. We have 6 years now under our belt, right? So we have we have a better opportunity than basically any other crypto game to attract farmers. People who have the farmer mentality, the homesteader mentality, they're going to look, okay, I'm going to get involved in a crypto game. Which one's been around and stable the longest? Oh, look, Splinterlands, 6 years. Right, that's our value proposition right there, is the time that we've had, the time that we've been around, without collapsing, without anybody rug pulling, without the founders taking off to the Bahamas and suitcases full of cash. We haven't been rugged. Right? Okay, yeah, the price is hurting at the moment. Some of the asset prices are down, but the project itself is still going strong after 6 years. So that's our value proposition. So when those farmers arrive, what kind of staking period do they want to see? 4 weeks, or a year, or the option and more and better benefits? But it could be as simple as, look, for every additional month that you stake, you get an extra 2% glint bonus for wins. And you also get a discount on your wild season passes. right? It could be that simple where you just volunteer to stake for longer periods. It could still be the current minimum of 1 month, but the longer you lock it in for, the better your experience in the rest of the game across a number of different things. It might be whatever, cheaper upgrades and guild buildings, or who knows, anything. There's all sorts of different ways and areas that we could go with it. But yeah, I feel like that maybe is our value proposition, and if they're the type of people that are going to find the game, what do we want them to find? And I kind of feel like it should be more that.
Yeah,
I really like that pitch of, it feels like such a small little nuance of, if you stake for 2 years, you get a discount on your wild pass. Right now, that's not really relevant to me, but in a year's time, when Chaos Legion shifts to wild, it's a much more realistic, perk or utility for having that staked SPS.
Yeah, but look, the devil's in the detail, right? So, is it all of your SPS? How much of a proportion of your SPS do you need to have staked for 2 years before you can get this discount? So again, the devil's in the detail. Like, how does it actually play out in practice? Can you only choose one staking period for all of your SPS, and then that's your personal that's the account's staking period, or can you? Yeah, so there's a lot to consider there, because then if we start offering different benefits, we'd need to silo it off and say, with this account has this unstaking period. Yeah, I don't know. And then you maybe, if you want to have different unstaking period SPS, then you'd need to have a second account that sits in, like a rental account or something like that, where you've just got it sat at the minimum, and that's where you keep your SPS that you still kind of want to vote with, but you also want available on hand that you can turn into liquid within a month. So again, the devil's in the detail. I have to give it some thought, and I'd be very open to hear what other people think about this, just as a general concept. I've only heard positive things about it, but it wasn't part of the original SPS proposal, the SPS white paper. So yeah, lots of thought and discussion ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the simplest version, right, it's just kind of, if we look at just your SPS rewards from staking and your voucher rewards from staking, it's sort of like you just kind of split that up into two different pools, right? Even if you want, so if you had one account, you could say, well, I want to stake this amount for a year, this amount for 2 years, this amount for 6 months, and they're just kind of different options you have on the screen, and they're different pools, and whatever your account has in this pool gets calculated at, and that's your reward. And that's pretty basic. I mean, I've definitely done some DeFi stuff where that's kind of how it worked. Even if you look at like something like Pancake Swap, right? Pancake Swap does that with their different pools now, where they have, if you want to lock up your cake, you do it at different time periods, and you get different rewards, right? So I feel like that's got to be that's easily doable. If we start talking about, well, how much glint do you earn, then that's where it starts to get more complicated, right? Because now the team's got to go into their system with how they calculate rewards and their formulas for that, and that's more complicated. Whereas 3 different options for staking, it's just each one's calculated at different amounts. You run the numbers, and then this is what your reward gets delivered to your account, kind of the same way it does now. So yeah, just from a simplicity standpoint, I think that's that makes more sense to start with, unless the team has another idea that, no, it is pretty easy to calculate glint and rewards, taking these different things into consideration. But yeah, I feel like that might get a little too in the weeds. So
yeah.
Well, so I had a little bit of a lesson learned with the proposal system. This goes back to your earlier point, Matt, in keeping it simple, right? I sent over the proposal. We had talked about it a couple of times on the episode, and in the People's Guild Discord, we had gone back and forth around the Soulbound approach, and I think our fault was trying to address a whole mess of questions around Soulbound cards, when in fact what we should have done is just put the one key cornerstone of the proposal, and then allow for entire the all of the details to be interpreted and implemented by the team. Obviously this is a little bit of a different story. It's directly in the wheelhouse of the DAO being 100% focused on SPS, but yeah, I think keeping it as simple as possible, and to your point, Hep, maybe it's not. We don't go with the idea of, okay, so Glint gets XYZ boost if you have your SPS stake for 2 years or 3 years, and it's a variable number. It's going to differentiate based upon your length of stake, and your governance is going to be twice the weight if you've got twice the staking. You know what I mean? So it could just get really convoluted, really messy in a hurry. Whereas if we just say, hey, we want to encourage the longer term staking, offer a 12, 24, 48 month commitment period. Yeah, I'm all about it, man. And Matt, if you're cool with it, I'd be happy to help start that conversation in the People's Guild Discord. That's kind of why we decided to open that thing up, is start the discussion around proposals. There's some big names in there, so
yeah, by all means, I think that's a good spot for it. And it's away from some of the just general salt in Mavs. We're, I think, more capable of having a productive conversation there than pretty much anywhere else. But yeah, I think if we consider it to be the early stages of planning, the interesting what you mentioned about the simplicity of the proposal. With the treasurers at the moment in our treasurer channel, trying to work out, there's 3 different options for how the DAO is going to buy DEC, and do we do it as a couple of big transactions, or do we do slow? And the proposal wasn't clear, so it's kind of up to us how we actually structure that. But there's risks and benefits to all sorts of different possibilities, and now the treasurers are trying to work out, do we go with option A, B, or C that Crypto Eat is putting up there for us. And it's funny because we sort of see ourselves as we're just the rubber stampers, right? The community tells us what to do, and then we just make it happen. But the more specific the proposal is, which as you've mentioned can be a bit of a quagmire, the more specific it is, the more problematic it might be getting it passed, although that's debatable, I guess. But the more general it is, the more the treasurers have to interpret, what's the spirit of this proposal, rather than what are the nuts and bolts of this proposal. So again, this is all stuff that we need to feel out. But I think the People's Guild channel server is a good way to have the conversation. And I'd be really interested to hear what people think. What do you think would be, because I mean, doubling the staking period and doubling the governance votes, that seems okay, but then that's not really a cost either. That person hasn't paid twice as much for the SPS. They've still got the same SPS, but they've just locked it in for twice as much. So how do you put a value from governance terms on whether you've actually spent more or whether you've just committed for longer, right? And how does that chart look? It's a fascinating conversation, and I'm actually starting to look forward to having it. But there's going to be 100 different ideas in 100 different directions, and really the question is what can pass, right? Because otherwise it's just a fun conversation that we're paying 100,000 DEC for. If it's not going to pass, that's all it is a conversation. So finding that common ground that most people are going to be okay with, that's the tricky bit. But I'm happy to have the talk. I like it. All this stuff fascinates me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder how much there is to be said for kind of equal, because the longer you wait on the sidelines to whether it's you're not looking for the crypto game, you're not looking for Splinterlands, is kind of irrelevant. But the longer that you're sitting without SPS, the more you're getting kind of buried with not having a voice in governance. And if I can make up for that a little bit by showing that greater sense of commitment by a 5-year stake, for example, that might entice me to try and play a little bit of catch up with, maybe I can't buy into as big a bag as some of the whales, but I can put my time where my mouth is and say, hey, I'm committed to this game long term. So yeah, interesting concept. I'm really glad that you brought that up, and Hep, kudos for circling back to that one. I feel like there's some good meat on the bones here to at least chew through and see if it's worthwhile of pursuing any further. All right, gentlemen, so we've been running for a couple of hours at this point, and we talked a little bit about Mexico, but I'd love to kind of hear, how have you taken to the Mexican cuisine down there?
Great question.
That's the number one food that I miss in Taiwan is Mexican food. I grew up in a border town, and I was the minority, outnumbered 95% to not Hispanic. So it was Mexican food on the daily for me, and I miss it greatly.
Well, as a vegetarian, my diet hasn't really changed, and so, but Mexicans do love to eat, and it's especially in the evenings. It's really hot here during the day. In the evening, from like 5 p.m. onwards, all of the night markets pop up, the food stalls pop up, just lots and lots of food stalls everywhere. The Mexicans love to eat. But my diet hasn't changed at all. I only eat one meal a day. That's usually somewhere between 2 and 4 p.m. And I'm vegetarian, so my diet hasn't changed at all.
There's so many good vegetarian, that's one thing I love about Mexican food is there's so many good, rice and beans and types of dishes that are, they're based on that aren't, meat involved. So, yeah.
Have you encountered the nopales yet?
Oh, I love nopales. They're so good. Yeah.
The interesting thing, rice and beans or arroz y frijoles is a big part of my diet naturally. But when you go somewhere, it's not on the menu because everyone's eating that at home. So when they go out, the last thing they want to be ordering is rice and beans. Whereas that's I actually like rice. It's a huge part of my diet. Rice, beans, eggs. I must admit that I'm a huge fan of both the tortillas and tostadas because bread generally it just has so much sugar, and even in Melbourne, Australia, where we have a substantial Middle Eastern ethnic group, there's a lot of Turkish food shops and restaurants around. So you get the Turkish bread or the pitas, but if you buy it from the supermarket and you look at the list of ingredients, it's so much sugar. So, and I've generally avoided breads because of sugar. I try not to have sugar in my diet at all. And both tostadas and the tortillas. Tortillas is like the Mexican staple. Everything is comes in a tortilla. If in West, okay, I'll have a sandwich. Here it's in a tortilla. And tacos, it's a soft tortilla. It's not a hard shell. Like in Australia, you go to a Mexican restaurant. I guess it's the same. You go to a Chinese restaurant, and the Chinese, like when I was at UWA, UWA has a large international intake slice from China each year, and you get a new Chinese student in your class and go, let's go to Chinese, and they go out and they sit down and look at the menu and they go, what is this? This isn't Chinese food. And it's the same with the Mexican food. You go to a Mexican restaurant in Australia, it's like, it's not what people eat here. So there's getting used to that. Lonches is one of my favorite. It's like barrote, which is like a baguette style bread. And you can, get all sorts of things in that. But again, sugar. So I've become a huge fan. I very, very rarely buy bread anymore. It's all just tortillas. So good for you. No sugar or minimal sugar, I guess. But when I first got here, you got that adjustment period. You try and when you go shopping, you try and get what you used to get, and you're looking, you just give up eventually. But I tried in the early days a couple of types of bread, and the bread that you buy here, like supermarket style bread and wrapped in plastic, you can literally, when you bite into it, you can feel the granules of sugar crunching between your teeth. Like, it's so rich in sugar. But I just love the whole, like, you go somewhere and you buy a sauce or a drink even, and it comes in a plastic bag. It's tied up, or you go to the abarrotes or like the local store, and you order just buy half a dozen eggs as part of your shopping, and half a dozen, they go in a plastic bag, and you got this plastic bag with 6 eggs you got to be careful with. It's just so much, like, it's so different how you do things here, and adjusting to it. And you look back at the wastage involved in packaging in Australia, and even like you go somewhere to like a market where you get your herbs, spices, things like that. They're just big drums, and you just pay, just got a scoop, and everything comes, get little quantities of it. And like in my street where I live, there's 4 little stores within walking distance. In Australia, you got like 2 main retail chains, Coles and Woolworths, massive supermarkets up and down the aisles. You get everything you want. Here, people don't do that. I mean, there is an option. There's a store called Soriana, which is like a Coles Woolworths, but you just go to, where I'm, the closest one to me is literally 2 doors up. And you just buy what you need on a daily basis. So I go shopping, I buy 1 tomato, 1 onion, couple of, you just shop daily from the local, and has that turnover. I like it. I really, really like it. And I think in a whole city of Guadalajara, and I've been here, I left Australia 6 months ago, but I've been here about 4.5 months in Mexico. And initially, before I rented this place I'm at, I was using Airbnb, and I was like, a couple of weeks here, month here, a couple of weeks just moving around. Because Guadalajara, they don't build up. Like, you don't see skyscrapers everywhere. It's like really, really spread out. And I think in the whole city, I've seen 4 McDonald's, maybe 3 Kentucky Fried Chickens, KFCs. So it's great, because you walk around Melbourne or Sydney, and there's a McDonald's in every corner. It's just like everything is like small, family operated. I just love that. I really, really do. And we talked on one episode. One thing I really, really like here, the police here are not revenue whores like in Australia. Police are just armed tax collectors, basically, in Australia. And here, the police have nothing to do with traffic. You can drive past the police car, no seatbelt on, talking on your mobile phone, hanging out the window, go through a red light. Nothing to do with the police. The police are literally peacekeepers. Which, in Australia, like, if you do any one of those things, they just converge on you, a horde, like hungry, money, make my KPIs for the day. I love that about here. And you see that entrepreneurial spirit as well. Whether it's 3 people riding past on a motorbike, or someone with a blanket on the pavement selling their wares. Again, in Australia, where's your permit? Where's your license? Oh, here's your fine. The punishment for being poor in Australia is to be fined more money. It's a ludicrous, insane system. I love it here. Absolutely. No, it's free. People say, "Oh, Mexico, it's so scary." But even the first time I went to Peru, it was the same thing. People say, "What? You're going to Peru? Oh, it's so scary there." It's freedom. There's so much more freedom here than in Australia. And like, sometimes I'll just be sitting outside or walking past, and you see this like 14-year-old kid going past on a motorbike. No one cares. Like, no one cares. People do what they need to do to get done what they need to do. And I just love it. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Have you started setting up your own little busker stand, rapping some Aussie Spanish, bro?
No, I still cannot rap in Spanish. I have in privacy tried a couple of times, but my Spanish is not good enough for freestyling. No.
Are
I'm not actually where I was hoping I would be by now. My Spanish is still very, very simple, very basic. Like when I go out every day, I can do whatever I need to do. Like taxi, Uber, restaurant, shops, whatever I need to do, I can do. But I can't sit down and have a deep philosophical conversation. I could not do this podcast with you in Spanish. My Spanish is not there. I just, and I mentioned this a couple of times with some of my friends when I do have conversations, but it's just very shallow. And they say, just have patience, just have a bit of patience. But yeah, it is a little frustrating that my Spanish is not where I was hoping it would be after 4 months in. I thought, well, 6 months really, consider the time I spent in South America before I came to Mexico. Yeah, I want my Spanish to be better than it is, and it's trying harder is not helping. I think I just need to relax and be patient.
Cool, man. I can't believe it's already been 6 months since you pushed off from those southern shores down in Melbourne. It feels like we just had you on, and really it was more than a year ago at this point. And the move to Mexico, the impending move to Mexico, was still way in the future, and here we are looking 6 months in the rear view. But yeah, that part of the world holds a special place in my heart, man. I could not imagine being a vegetarian in Mexico. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. I mean, but also like the foods that I crave, like lengua, is absolutely delectable. And oh yeah, so some of the Mexican dishes, yeah, none of my top 10 would be Bob friendly, but yeah, the salsa and the cheese and the tortillas really kind of make the dish, and I feel like you could go a long way kind of supplementing with that sort of stuff to kind of get your fill of Mexican food.
I'm still experimenting with cheeses. The cheese here is very, very different. Like in Australia, I had my favorite vintage cheddar, which is a very strong yellow and strong taste. Here, most of the cheeses are white and very soft. But every time I go shopping, I buy a different type of cheese. I'm still experimenting with the cheese. Yeah.
What about the what's your take on like crickets and grasshoppers? Would you eat those, or do they fall under your no meat, no animals? Because those are pretty popular in Mexico and in some places at least,
Well, I was surprised.
I don't know if you've seen them down in Guadalajara much, but
no, when Klaus Schwab first started spruiking his eats the bugs type thing, I thought, yeah, you eat the bugs first, mate. But even when it first started coming out, when I thought no one is ever going to do this, and with my tutoring, because of time zones in Australia, because I'm still in Australia when the WF, Satan Schwab comes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, during that period of time, I won't mention because we don't want this video to get banned as well, but that period of time, all of these people who came out of nowhere and became instant celebrities overnight, from behind the scenes talking, I thought, no, you can keep all that. But then I'll be talking to my Asian students, because from Melbourne, like Japan, Taiwan, China, very similar time zones. A lot of my students from there, and they would be talking about it like you go to the supermarket already and you buy packets of like protein powder from crickets, mealworms, and that sort of stuff. The first time I heard of it, I was thinking like no one would ever do that. And then I talked to these students, and it's commonplace already. And this is just, 23? So 2 years ago, it's already commonplace in some countries. I'm thinking, whoa.
There's a Mexican restaurant in DC that I love that Every time I go there, I get the cricket tacos. I think they're
Yeah,
great. Yeah, I like them. They say that the reason why, or one of the reasons why, like people like things like crisps or chips, like potato chips,
the
and the
crunch.
crunchiness of it is from like deep in our psyche when we were, our ancestors who ate bugs that were crunchy like that, and like that's why it's like a satisfying thing to us to like crunch and bite something crunchy. It's like deep seated in our mind because it's like a good source of healthy protein. um and yeah, I mean, hey, when they're seasoned well and they're good, they're just like, yeah, they're just little crunchy shells of protein. I mean, yeah, I like them, so
So when
give it
you
a try.
actually eat a cricket, it's not like a protein powder. You're actually eating the bug.
No, yeah, basically they
Legs,
yeah,
carapace, everything.
yeah, yeah.
Head.
Yeah, yeah, everything. I pulled cicadas, like, emerging cicadas, out of my backyard in the middle of the night, and cooked them, then froze them, and then cooked them the next day. Yeah, I have no qualms about any of this stuff at all. I mean, I think shrimp is a bug. I think shrimps are bugs, right? Like they're just bugs that live in the water. I don't know. Food's food. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll vouch for crickets. They're yummy.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I
They're
haven't
good.
been
Yeah.
disappointed.
Wow.
Give it a shot. If you see them somewhere, Bob, give it a shot. Because yeah, I mean, it's you would think they're a pretty humane food to eat, and yeah, it's just a great source of protein. So
I've eaten witchetty grubs before, which is an indigenous staple food. Um, just with like where I was working at the time in Perth, it was like to to be part of like the group, accepted to share, to talk, to hear the stories. It's expected, and you'd never like it's part of the ritual essentially. You sit there and you eat the witchetty grubs. But if it wasn't necessary, I wouldn't have done that. Um, yeah,
Well,
I'll get my.
what one note on the cheese, I would say, because I was introduced to halloumi cheese when I visited my sister in Melbourne,
Yeah.
and I had never experienced like it's a little squishy, it's a little squeaky, it
Mhm.
doesn't really melt. I would say asadero is kind of in that similar family. It melts a little bit better, but it is absolutely the 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 number one choice for me when it comes to Mexican cheese. So if you
Yeah.
haven't tried asadero yet,
Okay.
I would
I'll
order up
try
some
that.
asadero and cricket tacos, man. That sounds like your staple meal in the coming weeks, man.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite food store items. Um, like there's one place at the night markets in Colonia Americana next to Expatorio. It pops up at like in the evening type thing when everyone comes out when it's cooler. There's one place that does this falafel, and it is like it's huge. Like it's a two-man meal really. This falafel that they serve. So I usually and luckily they do actually cut it in half. Like otherwise you wouldn't even be able to hold it. This thing's huge.
so they fried as
Um,
like one big giant like ball, like a big like soccer ball size falafel or something.
yeah, it's exactly what
Wow.
it's like. Yeah. And another one is just basically the baked potato that's just all chopped up. And they sprinkle cheese, mayonnaise over it, and then you put the super hot chili sauce on that. I usually have that with an egg. So potato and egg all chopped up, sprinkle of cheese, mayonnaise, hot chili sauce. Um,
Yum,
yeah,
yum.
it's one of my favorite things to do.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Well, I'm excited for this adventure to continue. I don't suppose there's any going back, huh? Are you staying in
well,
Mexico for the long term, you reckon?
I have to leave the country in 6 weeks because I only got 6 months maximum. It's the maximum you can get. So I've either got to head up to San Diego or down to Guatemala. Basically, I've just got to cross the border and come back again, which is easy to do here. So I've got to do that in early first week in August. I've got to leave and come back. But other than that, yeah, I don't see
Let,
myself.
let me know how easy you think it is after you get in and out of the security line at the border at the U.S.
That's why I'm considering Guatemala, even though
Yeah.
Guatemala is a lot further.
Yeah.
And even though apparently I don't need a visa, but I need a piece of paper that is says that I don't need a visa, and that bit of paper to bypass the visa is just as difficult to get as a visa. So yeah, I think I'll just go to Guatemala and then back again.
I'll force you to explore a little bit. Every 6 months, you got to go see something new.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Also,
there's some fellow hive folk you could probably meet in that part of the world and
well,
make a
Buckcoins, he's old school from the Steam days and the D-Tube days. He's got a 28-room hostel on Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. And Starkers actually has visited him there. So yeah, he's had some hivers come down to visit him there. But yeah, Backwains is OG, like Steam days OG. So yeah, if anyone's heading to Guatemala, do send Buckcoins a message. 28-room hostel, Lake Atitlan, great place. But yeah, options available, and even though the US is closer, I've got 6 weeks to decide, but I might end up going with just whatever's the cheapest. But yeah, I've heard it's not easy, just simply because I don't even want to stay in America, in the US. I just want to cross the border and leave again. And I'd probably just book my exit flight. So when I arrive, I can say, look, I'm not staying. I've got my flight booked. But yeah, I've heard stories at the Cultural Exchange Group and so forth that they don't make it easy, even as an Australian citizen. So yeah, probably Guatemala.
All right, gents. Well, a lot of fun. I'm glad we could wrangle the two of the at least two of the three 101ers on here. And when I'm not doing the People's Guild stuff, I try my best to keep up with all things 101. Thoroughly enjoy the podcast. For anybody who is yet to be initiated to 101, I think you guys publish Saturdays your time.
Saturdays
Bob, is that
now,
right?
yeah. It used to be every Friday, but we've had to make a bit of a shift, so it's coming out every Saturday now. Yeah.
Well, I fully expect the next episode to feature at least 5-minute monologue on crickets and why you dismissed them for so long when you shouldn't have.
I just think it's just the fact that Klaus Schwab wants me to eat them is just, I'm just going to start. No, I'm not going to.
Well, it predates Klaus Schwab by ages. For
yeah,
sure.
Maybe this is the greatest trick he's actually played on you, is to deny you what could be one of the greatest pleasures of your life.
Maybe I might have to try one. I don't know.
All right, I think we got him.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, stay tuned for. I really look forward to kind of continuing this conversation. I think Matt has lit the torch with this SPS staking conversation. If you guys want to hop into the Discord, I'll plug it into the Peak D article. So take a look there for a link to the Discord, or reach out to any of the four of us. We'd be happy to get you in there and take part in the conversation and see what's what. Hopefully something positive shakes out of this, and look forward to seeing what fruit is born from Matt's ideas and see where we can run with this thing.
Yeah.
Actually, on that,
sorry, Bob, I would add to that too. Now is the time when the silly, outrageous crap, like the stuff that you're like, hey, could we? No, I won't mention that. Now's the time to mention that, right? So if you have an idea and you think that's gonna, just mention it anyway, right? This is not the time to be embarrassed and think, oh, I'm gonna look silly. Feel free to look silly, right? At the very early planning stages of something, you need to throw everything at the wall, and you'll see stuff stick that you didn't expect to. So now's the time. 6 months from now, when things have coalesced and we've talked and negotiated, and maybe not 6 months, but later on in the process, when things have firmed up and become an actual thing that we can point to and say, here's the thing, then it's too late to really make those big changes to the thing. So get in the conversation, start hard, start early, start thinking, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Sorry, Bob, I cut you off.
No, it's just when Jangles was even though it was a different usage, using the fruits of your labor. Just a moment, here in Mexico, you go to the tianguis or the day markets, the pop-ups. There is so much fruit and vegetables here that I've never actually seen before. And first couple of times went to the markets with my friend Kurt. I was like, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? Like, I've so much variety in fruit and vegetables here that I mean, even like you go to Thailand. First time I went to Thailand, it was like dragon fruit. Love dragon fruit, but star fruits and things. But here, there's so much variety in fruit and vegetables. And it's still stuff I haven't tried. Still stuff I look at and I've got no idea what it is. It's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, the culinary adventures are half the fun, man. Hopefully you find some new staples for you. To your point, Matt, I think at this point in time, and we've been here for 6 years, not me in particular, but the community has been here for 6 years. And, I think you'd be hard pressed to point to an asset that is more valuable and greater to Splinterlands than our community. And, you're asking and providing a bit of a call to action for the community to step up and shake the brain bush, see what falls out. There's no such thing as a stupid idea. The only stupid idea is the one you don't speak up about. So bring it to the table. Let's jaw on it for a little bit, have a bit of a yarn around where this thing can go. And yeah, looking forward to it. Awesome. Well,
Nice.
Matt and Bob, always a pleasure. Look forward to your next episode. Again, I'll link the 101 stuff in the PTE notes. So take a look if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't followed. Always fun conversations. And lately, Matt has been on. You alluded to this earlier. Matt has been on the receiving end of some beatdowns, which as a listener and as an outside observer, it's always fun to take part in.
And they're ones I'm confident I'll win too. I see the lineup and go, I've got this is going to be great. I've got and then I'd still lose. So yeah, no, that's extra bonus humiliation there. So come see our next humiliation ritual. Hopefully the turntables.
And it's just as a viewer on that part of the show, like when we have time to fit it in, we do some live battling at the end of the show. And it's part of the battling thing you don't get to see. You click this, some random name pops up, and on you go, and you forget that there's a person behind that name actually playing. And our podcasts, videos, you actually get to see people's faces while they're picking their team, or reading out the rule set. We then open it up. We look at what we've picked each. We make predictions how it's going to go. You got the commentary during the battle. It just adds a whole element to the battling side with the challenge feature that you don't experience yourself when you're just battling daily. It's a great part of the show. We always have fun with that.
Agreed. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy the challenge stuff. I'd love to see, and if you guys, one more quick call out before we wrap this thing up. The UX channel in the main Splinterlands Discord, there's been some talk around introducing more social elements to the battle. So whether it's like a post-battle chat or being able to drop emojis or something like that, anything to really engage the two folks on either side of their computers. And Matt, I meant to mention this earlier. I don't know if you've seen or if you frequent the UX channel, but there was talk around like an add friends function. And the idea would be, you get together like an in-game tavern sort of thing with your collected group of in-game friends, and you can broadcast, maybe a live sit-in tournament, or, I think back to your idea around the
tavern brawl.
The tavern brawl, yes. Man, that would be so much fun. I hope we're taking steps to eventually achieve that sort of thing, but yeah, so if you haven't checked out UX channel, again, the ideas unspoken are the only ones that you should feel foolish about. So drop them in there. Hopefully we got some cool stuff coming to fruition, and yeah. Cool. All right, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. A lot of fun hanging out with these two gentlemen, and tune into 101 this Saturday. In the meantime, you have been listening to
The People's Guild.